What's going on, everybody? Let the madness begin. LTMB live. What's going on? Glad to be here. April. No, damn. My bad. May. My bad. It's April. It's not April no more. It's May.
When was our last show?
It was
What
May.
day was it?
It was May 2nd.
May 2nd. That's right.
May 2nd. Yeah. All right. 5 months in. Glad to be here. Glad that you're with us. Again, this is LTMB Live. We're broadcasting on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Periscope Live, I believe. Yeah. If you have not already subscribed to the channel on YouTube, please do so. We will be glad to have some more of you as an audience. Glad that you are participating in the chat section as well. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and like the video. We always forget to tell you guys to, like the stuff, share the stuff. But please, if you could do that for us, we would be very grateful. So, it's a brand new week. Got a lot on the table. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm not feeling too bad, man.
Not feeling bad?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling... Well, I mean, like, me, I'm feeling good. Like, my outlook on, like, the country is whack.
I'm
feeling straight.
I thought you were about to say
outlook
on the country is good.
Oh,
I thought you were about to say that.
No, it's whack, man.
Yeah,
I'm like, when you have the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, retweeting white supremacist individuals, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Retweeting individuals who spread the whole Great Replacement and a white genocide narrative. Our president retweeted those accounts.
One of those
last
individuals too. Yeah, that's true.
That's a problem.
Southern?
Lawrence Southern and what's his name? Paul Joseph Watson. And that's the InfoWars dude.
Yep. He also retweeted the account of what's that account's name? Like Deep State something.
Deep State, yeah.
Deep State Exposed.
Exposed.
Yeah.
Deep State Exposed.
And yeah, with the comment, the elite proclaim America must submit to Islam or else.
Really? The elite been doing that? I didn't know that. It seems as if the elite have to submit to Israel.
Imagine if that statement was altered to read Israel.
Actually, and it says Islam. It doesn't say like a country. It doesn't say Saudi Arabia.
No, it
doesn't say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's different.
Just the faith.
It's just the faith. So most I guess progressives don't even use the word Jew. They use the word Israel. People on the left who support Palestinian liberation.
Yeah, because it's not about Jewish.
Yeah.
It's about a country.
Right.
All right. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We already have some people joining us for this stream, so thank you for that. Let's start with, we already started with Trump, so I guess we can stay with Trump for right now. Look, there's been a lot of noise about this whole spying business for quite some time, and President Donald Trump has facilitated that talk by repeating that claim that during the 2016 presidential election that his campaign was spied on by the former administration, Barack Obama's intelligence agencies. Again, he has repeated that multiple times without any evidence that is actually true. Recently, though, Donald Trump, he was interviewed by Sean Hannity, I believe. This was a couple weeks back. And he admitted that claim that he made wasn't based on anything. It wasn't based on any intel or evidence, anything like that. It was just really, it was just a statement that he made. And then he had the nerve to say something like he was surprised that like that narrative took off and people were discussing it. So, like I said, this has been something that we have heard about for months. And even though President Trump just weeks ago stated that it wasn't based on anything, he's back to talking about it like it did happen. So there is there's a recent article by the New York Times that details some alleged spying or some possible spying as relates to George Papadopoulos. So just to, I guess, preempt the story, Donald Trump on Twitter, he talked about this article, this New York Times article. And he said, finally, mainstream media is getting involved. Too hot to avoid. Pulitzer Prize anyone? The New York Times on front page finally details effort to spy on Trump campaign. This is bigger than Watergate, but the reverse.
Bigger than Watergate, but the reverse. What does it mean by reverse? What does that even mean? Bigger than Watergate, but in reverse?
I guess Watergate, it was
like that
the
involved
executive
like
office that was
okay,
doing the
yeah, like because Nixon kind of orchestrated the surveillance of his political opponents by putting like bugs and recordings and whatnot.
Right, and so like I guess he's claiming that the same thing was done, but in reverse this time.
No, because there were actual warrants involved.
Yeah.
This definitely not like Watergate.
No, I don't.
Definitely not like that.
No. So going back to the article, the New York Times article, it talks about George Papadopoulos, and there was somebody, I guess, a woman that was working undercover for the FBI. We don't know if that woman was an agent, undercover agent, whatever, but I guess she was doing the bidding of the FBI, working for the FBI in some capacity, and went undercover to go meet with George Papadopoulos in London in 2016. The meeting was supposed to be about, I believe, foreign policy, but really she wanted to find out what he knew about possible, information that he had or that he has stated that the Russians had about Hillary Clinton.
So this was after he blabbed out the mouth.
This is after.
This is after he blabbed, after he was intoxicated, right, and got drunk, and kind of spilt the beans.
Yes, to the Australian
diplomat. Yeah.
Yes. So this was after that.
Australian diplomat reported it.
Right. So again, there's an FBI operation. They go to Papadopoulos to find out more undercover.
This is not out of the ordinary.
It's not out of the ordinary, and I don't believe anything was attained by this undercover operation. At least the New York Times article doesn't detail any findings, anything they got from it. But this is the basis of Trump's tweet that we just showed you, that there was indeed spying on his campaign.
I don't think this fits the definition of spying, especially when there was some sort of behavior that Papadopoulos was engaged in that would cause the FBI to want to follow him. Yeah, follow him or try to get some more intel about what he knew based on something he said. Like, wait a second, this dude says some crazy things. And in the past, this is not different. Campaigns are routinely approached by what they think are either foreign agents or individuals who want to kind of infiltrate their campaign or use them to get to other people's campaign. This is actually not a new thing. Right. I think this actually happened with Hillary Clinton. And they reported it to the FBI. I think it happened to McCain too, and they report it to the FBI. That's what you're supposed to do. When you're approached with anything from somebody who you don't know where they're from, or maybe you do know where they're from, you report it to the FBI if they're trying to offer you something that's either stolen or you think is stolen. This is not a new thing. You report it to the FBI. That's what should have happened.
So there was something that preceded the FBI getting involved. It was Papadopoulos. It was Papadopoulos talking to the Australian diplomat. Now, again, do we know that Papadopoulos was telling the truth?
He could have been lying.
He could have been lying. The FBI didn't know if he was lying or telling the truth as well, but they had to do something to find out.
You know how people boast about what they know about or what they don't know, because he had a position on the Trump campaign, so he's probably feeling some way about himself. He gets to hobnob with individuals he, I guess, wasn't used to being around, and so he may have just been shooting off at the mouth. And it could have been a total lie. Could have been a total lie, and maybe it was, but he got himself in trouble.
Exactly. And he got himself, I guess, in this whole operation where they wanted to gather information about what he knew.
And obviously,
and that's pretty normal.
Pretty normal, considering that he has a direct connection to somebody who could be in the White House.
Right.
And so, and those connections give him access to not just the White House, but whatever the White House has access to.
Right. So on Tuesday, during the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing, FBI Director Christopher Wray testified, and he was asked by Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who's a Democrat from New Hampshire, if he agreed with Attorney General William Barr's assessment that spying did occur on Trump's presidential campaign in 2016. Now, this was the same subcommittee that had Attorney General William Barr before them last month, just about a month ago. And it was in that subcommittee hearing that he did say that, yes, he believed that spying did occur. So let's find out if FBI Director Wray agrees with that assessment.
I was very concerned by his use of the word spying, which I think is a very loaded word. It conjures a criminal connotation. And I want to ask you, and I'd appreciate a yes or no answer if possible. When FBI agents conduct investigations against alleged mobsters, suspected terrorists, other criminals, do you believe that they're engaging in spying when they're following FBI investigative policies and procedures?
Well, that's not the term I would use.
Thank you. So I would say that's a no to that question.
Well, I mean, look, there are lots of people have different colloquial phrases. I believe that the FBI is engaged in investigative activity, and part of investigative activity includes surveillance activity of different shapes and sizes. And to me, the key question is making sure that it's done by the book, consistent with our lawful authorities. That's the key question. Different people use different colloquial phrases.
Do you have any evidence that any illegal surveillance into the campaigns or individuals associated with the campaigns by the FBI occurred?
I don't think I personally have any evidence of that sort.
Now, who appointed Christopher Wray?
That would be the current president.
That would be the current president.
Donald Trump.
Maybe he should have talked to Christopher Wray. Donald Trump should have talked to him, or maybe William Barr should have talked to Christopher Wray before this testimony to let him know, hey, we need to be on the same page. Or did they leave him out of the loop? Now, this is not like we're not trying to stand up for the FBI here. We're not trying to say, oh, the FBI is such a
stand-up organization.
Stand-up
They do
organization.
things the right way all the time.
But see, here's the thing. Crime happens. We talk about criminal justice reform all the time. We talk about how police officers and prosecutors abuse their power, railroad people. We talk about that all the time. But crime does occur, right?
Yes.
So they still have to fight crime. They still have to engage in activities that would cause them to,
I'm looking for a key word here.
investigate.
Investigate.
Yeah, they still have to investigate crime. Again, that isn't simply because we talk about I guess the problems with our criminal justice system, and we constantly highlight cases where police officers are abusing their power, police departments are not holding officers accountable. These same departments are still engaged in legitimate crime deterrence. Right. They're still engaged in legitimate crime investigation. You see what I'm saying? It's not black and white here.
So when those situations do arise, especially when we're talking about police misconduct, police brutality, and the investigation is underway, you never hear us critical of the investigation. Now, we want something from that investigation. We want the truth to be found out, and we want action to be taken because of that investigation.
But even
but there has to be that investigation.
But even I'm more or less talking about any other investigations that are going on, simply because there are instances of police brutality and police abuse of power, criminal justice system abuse of power. That doesn't mean all the investigations that law enforcement are involved in are faulty. It doesn't mean that.
No.
And that's kind of the way we we're viewing this situation. Like the FBI is not some sort of organization that we should necessarily trust.
No, but if we're looking at this thing objectively, okay,
like they still have crime. They still have legitimate crime to to investigate, don't they?
And this was preceded by Papadopoulos' words, his actions. So when that happens, then there's going to be an investigation. Now, Trump may not like that, and I get that because Papadopoulos was working with his campaign. I get that. I can't even go to the point where if it was me, I would feel like I was attacked because there was a reason for the investigation. So it just seems, if you're looking at this thing objectively, something led to the investigation. It wasn't like it was created out of whole cloth. It wasn't like it just came from nowhere and it was just like a target on Trump's back by the Obama administration.
And
no,
actually,
there was something that actually happened.
And if you just think about how investigations usually proceed, especially if they get information on someone doing some illegal activity, like they surveil people all the time. If they have some information, they get information on, let's say somebody's running a chop shop, right? What do? They go to the suspected place and they surveil the place.
Yeah.
That's what they do. If this was really such a big issue for Trump, right, and some of these Republicans, if this was actually an issue for them, then he would kind of maybe issue an executive order shutting down not only FBI surveillance or undercover investigations, shut down all undercover investigations that go on in all law enforcement departments across the country. That would make sense, right? If he doesn't like when law enforcement investigates potential crimes and how they go about it as far as like undercover or surveilling people, then it should be shut down across the board.
See, the problem is with the word spying. Because when you say spying, you're trying to convey something. Investigative work is normal. I mean, that happens on a daily basis. But when you're saying spying, you're trying to suggest that something improper has happened, something illegal, unauthorized, something like that. Did that occur? Is there any evidence to suggest that something like that occurred?
What was that? Christopher Collins, the insider trading story that we covered?
Right, from New York, representative from New York.
The FBI got tipped off.
They did.
And what did they do?
They investigated.
They
surveilled
him.
Right.
That's how they found out.
Yeah.
That's how they found out he was guilty of what he was doing.
Yeah. And they knew that he had called his son.
They knew that he had called his son.
Right after he learned the information.
Right after he learned. Same thing with what's the dude, Duncan Hunter.
That's right. They would have to be an investigation to learn that he was using campaign funds for personal
Exactly.
needs.
So it's like these are cases where representatives were abusing their power and doing something illegal. Like, were those investigations not warranted? Simply because we are not supposed to trust the FBI in general? Does that mean like the crimes that they try to go after, we should think that they're illegitimate just because it's the FBI?
Right.
It's like, nah. Even what's the mayor in Baltimore? Didn't she go down for some shit?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, so
she had to resign.
She had to resign. It was like the second mayor within like, I don't know, a very short period of time that had to resign because of corruption. Or the third, I can't remember.
So now let's get to I guess something that Trump is feeling because of this investigation and because of the Mueller investigation that lasted for a couple of years. This is what President Trump said on Twitter. Despite the tremendous success that I have had as president, including perhaps the greatest economy and most successful first 2 years of any president in history, they have stolen 2 years of our presidency. Collusion, delusion, that we will never be able to get back. The witch hunt is over, but we will never forget. Make America great again.
I think that was his second try at the tweet. The first try, it says Stalin. Stollen.
Yeah.
I think, I guess, maybe when he's trying to make an appeal to his base, he doesn't realize he's contradicting himself. You know what I'm saying?
I doubt it. Yeah,
because he highlighted that he is the great economy.
Yes. Greatest first 2 years
in history.
in history.
In history.
By a president.
Okay. So by saying that, he is suggesting that, I guess, he was allowed to do his job. Otherwise, he would not be able to, I guess, create this great economy.
Reach these new
and
heights.
and have the greatest 2 years in history.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, he was uninhibited. That's what he's suggesting. He doesn't know it, but that's kind of what he's
been
suggesting.
severely hampered and will never get those 2 years
2 years
back.
back. I think there's something else going on here because it's not supposed to make sense. You would think that his fellow Republicans would push back against that,
Yeah.
but they haven't.
No, they haven't.
So that tells me he's just kind of like testing the waters. Because if he gets another 2 years after this term, it's possible that the statute of limitations on some of the obstruction of justice charges will expire
By the time he gets out.
by the time he gets out. Because he knows that Mueller was not going to indict him. Because they don't indict a sitting president.
Right. His DOJ.
His DOJ, yeah. So they knew that. And so there could be some, litigation after, if he loses in 2020. And he knows that.
Right.
So if he gets another 2 years,
Yeah. And there have been
extensions.
There have been hundreds of prosecutors now
500.
I saw 700.
Whoa. Last time I saw it was 500.
I saw 700. So yeah, these former prosecutors, federal prosecutors, say that had President Trump not been President Trump, he was civilian Trump. If he was not in the White House, he would have been indicted for obstruction of justice because of what was learned on reading the Mueller report.
Hey, but there's no underlying crime, Will.
No underlying crime. So
Zero
that means there can't be a crime then.
That means it can't be a crime, which is interesting because I was on the DOJ's website yesterday.
Were you?
Yes, I was, Will.
What did you learn?
I was on the DOJ's website, and I read that a former linguist was arrested and indicted on obstruction charges. This is Barr's DOJ.
Okay.
Recently, this is interesting, and I thought it was interesting. You say recently? It was actually 2 days ago.
My goodness, that is very recent.
Yes, sorry, Monday.
Damn.
Monday, not 2 days ago. It was yesterday. And if you go to the DOJ's website, you can read it. But he was not, I guess, convicted of or charged with a crime. He wasn't charged with. He wasn't really. Well, he was charged. He wasn't convicted of a crime. Okay. He was being investigated.
Okay.
And they indicted him on obstruction of justice charges. If I were him, I would definitely use Donald Trump and William Barr's
as the basis for his argument.
As the basis for his argument.
No underlying crime cannot mean obstruction.
Yeah, and he can say, I was frustrated. He can say, I was frustrated because that's what William Barr said about Trump.
I was made to do stuff.
I was made to do stuff.
Because I was just trying to clear my good name.
I was trying to fight back against hoax charges, a phony investigation.
So I committed crimes in the process.
I would use that if I was him. If I was his lawyers, I'd be like, president.
It's made for him.
It's made for him. I just thought it was interesting that, the DOJ indicted somebody for
Yes, this DOJ.
This DOJ.
You're not going back to you're sure you're not going back to a previous DOJ. This is this current DOJ.
May 6th.
Huh.
Pretty sure I can look up some other cases, but that was the most recent one I saw.
You know what else is really interesting about that? I totally buy into what you're saying. Maybe trying to stall that clock. There was another president that was actually impeached. In modern history. And that was President William Clinton. Billy Clinton.
Billy.
And the way that whole thing got started was not because he had an affair. It was because of Whitewater. It was because of that, right? And then that's
where it started because
it started with that.
Yeah, and it started with that because they were definitely trying to go after Bill Clinton. So
and then they dug into his personal life.
And
then they found out some information, and that's what they got him on, and that's what launched the impeachment proceedings. But that was years in the process. That was 4 or 5 years from the start of all these investigations with Whitewater and all that until we knew who Monica Lewinsky was and all of this. That was years. And this dude still, ran the country. Even if you don't believe in, if you don't support his policies or whatever, that has nothing to do with it. What matters is that he was still the president.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Wasn't prevented from doing anything.
Prevent him from
and I don't remember hearing any whining either about how he was. Oh, I need some more years, or man, we've been significantly hampered by these investigations, and I didn't hear any of that. But we're hearing that from this president, and on his Twitter feed too, he retweeted a message from Jerry Falwell. Love to show you that.
Yeah.
This message from Jerry Falwell Jr. He said, after the best week ever for Donald Trump, no obstruction, no collusion. New York Times admits Barack Obama did spy on his campaign, and the economy is soaring. I now support reparations. Trump should have 2 years added to his first term as payback for time stolen by this corrupt failed coup. That's really, there's a lot to that, but first of all, that he needs an extra 2 years. That's ridiculous, but that Donald Trump likes that. And then the insertion of, I now support reparations. What an asshole. Straight up. Not just an asshole, an evil asshole. Mm-hmm. Because when you're talking about reparations, and what he's describing right there, or what he's kind of referring to, is reparations for black people, for descendants of slavery, because of slavery, because people were kidnapped and forced to do work for free and murdered and all this. They built the country for free. He's talking about reparations for that. He doesn't support reparations in that regard.
But he does support reparations for Donald
Trump. That had 2 years stolen from him.
2 years stolen.
And Donald Trump likes it too. He retweets it. He retweets this message.
That's just an interesting way to interpret all this.
Yeah. And Donald Trump, the guy that is the best president for black people, the guy that cares about black people, because as evidence of how much he cares for black people, just look no further than the unemployment rate for black people. Well, that's something that Trump single-handedly did. It wasn't like the employment rate was dropping as he came into office and it's just been steadily going down. No, Donald Trump actually did something to make that happen, to make these new lows occur. So that, like I said, that's evidence that Donald Trump cares about black people. But then when you see a retweet like this, a bad joke about reparations, man, it really has you wonder. It really makes you wonder, man.
I'm not wondering.
Mm-hmm.
No,
just me.
Oh, I'm beyond wondering.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm in full-fledged knowing.
Yeah, I think he's giving us enough to know.
He's giving up enough large red flags, man.
Oh yeah, I think so. All right, so let's move on. Let's do the Georgia. Let's go because we can go Georgia back to back actually.
Oh yeah, true that.
Well, I was talking about the heartbeat bill. Let's
Okay,
yeah. So we talked about heartbeat bills before on this program, and I believe just last year we talked about it being signed into legislation in Kansas by the Kansas Governor Kim Reynolds. Other states have tried this. Heartbeat bills are legislation which seek to limit abortion access. What the heartbeat bill does is it states that if a fetal heartbeat can be detected, then an abortion cannot be performed. Now, a fetal heartbeat is usually detected at about 5 to 6 weeks. 5 to 6 weeks. Many, if not most, women who are pregnant do not know that they are pregnant by the time 5 or 6 weeks comes around. But these heartbeat bills, like I said, seek to put an end to abortion, literally. So Georgia is just the latest example. On Tuesday, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, signed a heartbeat bill into legislation. Actually, the name of the bill is the Living Infant Fairness and Equality Act, or LIFE Act. You like how they did that?
Clever.
The LIFE Act.
That's clever.
It does have exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother.
How nice of them.
Very nice, very nice. These bills are always shot down, either by state judges, federal judges. They're always shot down. And like I said, the one that we talked about in Kansas just last year, earlier this year in January, a state judge in Kansas ruled that it was unconstitutional. So there have been cases in Kentucky, there have been cases in North Dakota, Ohio, Arkansas. All of these bills have been struck down. But now there's a new one in Georgia.
I think I'm like the timing of some of these attempted, I guess, bill passings is kind of interesting to me. Because recently at one of Trump's rallies, I actually had a few of them. What did he say about, I guess, what Democrats want to be done to babies after birth? He said they're being held in blankets.
Yeah, and then deciding if
They consult the doctor if they want to kill the baby or not.
Right,
So
right.
basically infanticide.
Right.
I do think there's a connection between kind of Trump pushing this lie at rallies and these representatives pushing the bills through. They think that they can kind of, I guess, utilize like the energy that Trump is trying to put out there and think that's going to like maybe stimulate some kind of fear, maybe galvanize some sort of support when these bills are trying to get pushed through. I don't know. I just think it's weird that like we've seen so much of this particular bill trying to be pushed through at a time where Trump is pushing that lie about infanticide.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a coincidence. Also, what's not a coincidence is that we have a new justice on the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, who has made his feelings about abortion well known in the past. Now, when he was, in the lead up to him being confirmed and in confirmation hearings, now he, tried to say that pretty much the law was the law. He's going to uphold precedent, but I believe conservatives don't really expect that. They want one of these cases to reach it all the way to the Supreme Court.
He's in there for a reason, and I think they are. I don't know. I think they're ready to lose a few to get to that one.
Yeah. Because
if that one gets through,
yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Then they can forever change the law of the land, and it's maybe have a good shot and actually.
I don't expect
tearing up Roe v. Wade.
Like you said, a lot of these bills face roadblocks and they've been shot down. But I think they were expecting that. I think if that one gets up to the Supreme Court, they're just waiting on that one.
Right. Just for some information, okay, about this whole fetal heartbeat being detected and the timeline there. Like I said, it's about at 5-6 weeks. In 2016. Only 9% of abortions were performed at 6 weeks or earlier. 9%. So like I said, that goes into telling you that in a lot of cases, and probably in most cases, women do not know for sure that they are pregnant by that time. So you're saying that after finding out, they shouldn't be able to get an abortion, even though the law of the land, like we just asserted, Roe v. Wade, guarantees the right for a woman to have an abortion up until the week of viability for a fetus. So, or up until the point of viability for a fetus. But conservatives be conservatives. Conservatives be conservatives, man.
It's almost like they have this habit of trying to practice this really, I don't know, draconian form of morality, but when they get if they get what they want, they definitely wouldn't be able to handle the consequences of it.
No, they wouldn't. Because what do you think is going to happen? Abortions are not going to occur anymore?
Not only that, abortions are definitely going to occur, but it's like, I'm just going to assume there are going to be more people having babies. Right?
Right.
More people having babies. Some of those babies are probably going to need assistance, government assistance. Government assistance, which they don't want anybody to have.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So they want the babies to come out, but they don't, like you said, they're not entirely ready to deal with the circumstances.
Ready? They don't want to.
They don't want to deal with it.
They don't want to deal with the circumstances.
Right.
So it's almost like they're just practicing this type of morality for the sake of practicing it.
So that, you know what? That brings up a interesting point though, because you're saying that these, if you make abortion illegal, then there would be more people that would need government assistance. We have a case now where we have enough people that need government assistance, and we see that politicians don't want to take care of that responsibility. So what makes you think that more people that will require it would be a better situation? How about we deal with the fact that people are living in poverty and do something about that? Because I think that probably would have an effect on abortion rates. I think. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that would have something to do with abortion rates. But we don't do that. I always say when we talk about the subject, I don't think anybody is like celebrating that abortion happens. Nobody's celebrating that. And I think anybody would argue that they would love to see abortion rates go down. But if you honestly want to make that happen, then you have to deal with root causes. And one of those root causes is poverty. It's not that we have Roe v. Wade. All right. Staying in Georgia. Okay. So we have a, how do I put this? Okay. We have a good old-fashioned tale of racism. And this racism is happening in the South. In the great state of Georgia.
Georgia?
Of
all places.
All places,
I wouldn't have expected Georgia, man.
So it's occurring in a small southern town. Small southern town in the great state of Georgia.
About 50 miles outside of ATL.
About 50 miles outside ATL. ATL, of course, the big urban community, city life. But this is a very small town. And I know it's weird that we would be talking about some racism in a small southern town, but that's what we got. So this small southern town, let me get back to my normal operating voice. This small southern...
I was hoping.
Yeah, I couldn't do that the whole segment, no. Do something to me negative, I know that. Anyway, so the small town we're talking about in Georgia is called Hoschton, Georgia. Like Mike said, it's about 50 miles outside of Atlanta. The demographics for this town are very lopsided. So there's about, if you look at the numbers, I mean, it depends on which data you're looking at, but approximately it's 83 to 85% white. The black population is about 3.5% black. So that is wow. That's wow. It's not the worst that I've ever seen. I mean, there are certainly some places that the numbers are skewed, not skewed. I mean, the numbers are way more lopsided than that. When I went to North Dakota in Bismarck, North Dakota, I don't know if anybody else does this. And I don't know if this is something that, people of color do this, hey, well, you gotta be prepared for where I'm going. That's what I do. I'm very observant and I need to know where I'm going. Bismarck, North Dakota, I believe the numbers are something like 1.5, 1.8% black people. So when I was there, I was definitely like,
you were looking for some pigment.
Yeah,
even a little bit.
That and just watching my back.
Okay.
Just watching my back. But anyway, so the numbers here are, like I said, it's very lopsided, but not the most lopsided in the country. So in this small town of Georgia, Hoschton, Georgia, the town was searching for a new city administrator. And so they received several applications, and they had narrowed the applications down to 4 applicants. Now, there was one of these 4 applicants that was much different than the other ones. That one applicant and his name is Keith Henry. He was black. He was black. The others were white, I believe. So that was the main difference there.
Okay, that happens a lot.
That does happen a lot.
It doesn't seem out of the ordinary.
It hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Okay.
Okay. So that's just the key difference here. So the mayor of this small town, Hoschton, Georgia, her name is Teresa Kennerly, and she reportedly said on multiple occasions that the black applicant, Keith Henry, was removed from consideration for this job, quote, because he is black and the city isn't ready for this, end quote. This apparently took place at a closed door meeting, like a council meeting. And there was one councilwoman that stated that she repeated these comments to her outside in the parking lot afterwards. And her name, that councilwoman's name, is Hope Weeks. So she told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She proceeded to tell me that the candidate was real good, but he was black, and we don't have a big black population. And she just didn't think Hoschton was ready for that. So after that, she, this councilwoman, Hope Week, she felt unnerved by that, and she spoke with somebody else. Ultimately, she took the matter to the city's attorney. And so, of course, after that, word got out about it, and this caused other council members to speak about it. There was one council member, and his name is Jim Cleveland. He seemed to understand the mayor's position, and he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I believe I have that here too. Yeah, he said, "I understand Teresa saying that simply because we're not Atlanta. Things are different here than they are 50 miles down the road." So for Mayor Kennerly's part, she did not deny or confirm that she actually used that language, that she said that. She did say that she hadn't, quote, made any statement that suggests prejudice, end quote. She said that she couldn't talk about something that happened in a closed door meeting. But she did not make any statements that could be deemed
Is that
prejudice.
normally the case though? Could she make comments about a closed door meeting? I mean, she is the mayor. It's a city council meeting.
She is.
Usually the contents of city council meetings are public.
Yeah. Even if it's a closed door meeting.
Even if it's a closed door meeting,
it
that doesn't mean
that there's like some.
it's like proprietary information.
No.
Just means that like members of the public can't attend that meeting. It doesn't mean members of the public can't find out what went on in that meeting.
Exactly.
Especially if it's a government meeting.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Let's just give her a mulligan. Let's just say it was. No, I'm just saying. Like, what if it wasn't true?
Okay.
How does, Jim Cleveland kind of come into this?
So Jim Cleveland, of course, like I said, he was the council member that agreed with Mayor Kennerly and said that, yeah, this is not Atlanta. We do things different here. What's, I guess, acceptable up there, really doesn't fly down here. We don't have the same situation. We don't have the same type of lifestyle here. Look, if the story ended there, we still have a case of racism. We still have a case where an applicant is being removed from consideration because of the pigmentation of his skin. I mean, that's outlandish. That's crazy. This is 2019, and you would think that stuff like that isn't happening still, but it's possible. It's very likely that that's exactly what happened. Now, the applicant, Keith Henry, I believe he said that he removed himself from consideration. I guess as it pertains to him, like his own mindset, he removed himself from consideration because he actually lives in Houston, and they weren't willing to offer him any like financial assistance to actually get there to interview for the job. And so he wasn't going to do that. And this council member, Jim Cleveland, he said that he also had Keith Henry as number 4, last of all the applicants to him, because he did not interview in person. So it had nothing to do with his race or anything like that. So again, hey, as it pertains to Cleveland and his feelings about who, how to rank the applicants, it's not based on race. So I guess we're good with him on that. But then
He added some other things.
he added some other stuff. So he began talking about, I guess, the larger conversation about race. And so we have a quote from him. So again, Councilman Cleveland, he went into depth about his feelings on race to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And here's what he said. I'm a Christian, and my Christian beliefs are you don't do interracial marriage. That's the way I was brought up, and that's the way I believe. I have black friends. I hired black people. But when it comes to all this stuff you see on TV, when you see blacks and whites together, it makes my blood boil because that's just not the way a Christian is supposed to live.
And, even though he said his blood boils when he sees interracial couples on TV, he did want to reassure us that he's not racist.
Yes, he has black friends.
He has black
He's
friends.
hired black.
Which doesn't make sense. Like, to me, what's the point of adding in all this other stuff when, like, the issue was somebody being hired, right?
Right.
So, and he already made that point. Like,
Yes.
I have black friends, and I've hired black people. Since the situation involved a potential hiring of somebody who was black, it could have ended right there, right? It could have ended right there, but then he went further for some strange reason. And, like, it's weird that I have to unpack this because he brought Christianity into it. And said that's not the way Christians are supposed to live. Now, according to what I've observed about people who practice Christianity or any religion, it's based upon like I guess moral doctrine. It's based on being righteous in some way or godly in some way, like being without sin. So being a Christian, being a good Christian has to do with living without sin, right? So, in order to fulfill that, black and white people can't mix. What is he suggesting about black people? You see what I'm saying? If his Christian upbringing is one about, being moral, being sinless, being godly, being righteous, and all that, but then he says it's also, about not racial, I guess, miscegenation, intermixing, what is he essentially saying about black people? He's saying that black people, in essence, he's saying that black people are opposite of that. Otherwise, why wouldn't you want to mix with those people?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
There's something about black people that would bring about a sinful life. Like you associating yourself with them in like that type of intimate way. Not just being their friend, like being their friend, that's cool. Being a coworker of theirs, yeah, cool. But when you're intimate with them,
see that suggests that suggests some kind of like, I guess, genetic propensity to me, because it's like he said, friends, and he would hire them. So therefore, it's not necessarily about like, I don't know, being around black people, right? It's not specific to a lifestyle. So I guess when you're talking about racial mixing and interracial dating, he's definitely talking about sex. So he must be talking about some sort of genetic predisposition. He would have to be.
yeah, I would. That's why religion is boy, religion is real messed up at times because it's all about interpretation. It's all about interpretation. Is there's so many different, sects, SECTS. There's just so many different like wings of like Christianity and so many different like principles and teachings. There's so many different ones. I mean, look, again, we live in the South. I've heard from white people, that when they were growing up in like the Baptist church, they grew up listening to jokes about black people, racist jokes about black people, teaching them that black people were lesser than white people. So this is something that has been done for generations. So his feelings on this are not foreign to me and probably aren't foreign to a lot of people. But why like communicate this in this type of article? When the article is about a person, and like he said, he doesn't care if the person was black because you said, you noted that he's hired black people before. So that's not something that will remove him from consideration to Jim Cleveland's mind. So why go further and like expound on your feelings on interracial marriage, interracial dating, or anything like that when that's not the subject here? What are you trying to convey here?
But it's interesting.
Like he had to get out that he was racist. Like he had to tell somebody.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that he feels that the way he was brought up equates to being a Christian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he just assumes, hey, I was brought up this way.
And that means Christianity.
And that means Christianity. My family is Christian. And they have these beliefs. So therefore, you know, these beliefs must be Christianity. Regardless of whether I have read this in the Bible or have evidence that this belief is true. He's combined those two things. And I think it's necessary to do that. If you were both Christian and racist, you have to kind of find a way to blend those two in order to justify it. I think that's what that's about. They try to kind of shoehorn that prejudice and that racism into like their religion.
You would have to.
You have to shoehorn it in.
Because you look, we all know.
So being racist is actually a Christian thing, technically.
Yeah, but we all know that in this country and in, all across the globe, people have very strong feelings about religion. So this no different in Hoschton, Georgia. So this figure, this dude right here, this council member, Cleveland, like you said, he has to kind of shoehorn his racist feelings and attitudes into his religion to make them justified.
Yeah, because those two things most likely contradict one another.
Yeah,
they contradict one another, and he has to blend them.
And see, and that's what that's one of the things that I can't stand about religion, and it's the interpretation. It's anybody's interpretation. Anybody can interpret the Bible or whatever they read. They can interpret it however they want to. Does that make it real? Does that make it right?
Or maybe it's the case where like people take, I guess, whatever beliefs they have into their religious practice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't really leave those things behind.
No, of course.
They still want to be moral, or seem like they're moral.
Seem like they're moral. That's a better way of saying it. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Where you want to go now?
We can go to secretary.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Go to secretary.
All right, let's do that. Last week we reported on the rally in South Carolina, the teachers' rally in South Carolina. Thousands of teachers converged on the state capitol on Wednesday of last week, and they did this because they want improvements in the education field. They want higher pay. They want school improvements. They want to see some change. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos has not been one that supports teachers. So she was asked about, I guess, this feeling by teachers that things need to change, and not just about their feelings, but how they have been going about expressing their feelings and engaging in strikes and rallies and marches during school hours. So this is what the Education Secretary had to say. She said, "I think it's important that adults have adult disagreements on adult time, and that they not ultimately hurt kids in the process. I think too often they're doing so by walking out of classrooms and having arguments in the way that they are."
Woo! She seems like someone who really hasn't had to fight for things in her life.
Out of touch a little bit out of touch, right?
Things have come quite easily for her.
Oh yeah.
So she
she
probably doesn't know how to go about getting things she is not provided, or I guess should be provided, like these teachers.
Right.
So she doesn't know how to go about fighting for those
what
things.
the fight even looks like.
What the fight even looks like. So it's like, at first I was like, oh man, like she's being condescending by using that term, adult time. Like, why would, like, that seemed, she could have said free time.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, it's innocuous. It's an innocuous term, adult time.
It's a little condescending.
But it's a little condescending. But I couldn't tell. Yeah. So it could be just that, one, she was trying to be condescending, and then two, she's just out of touch.
Yeah.
Because teachers were real organized in orchestrating this strike. It's not like they just walked out of class one day. Everybody knew it was happening, right? So they were very organized
And about like 10,000
10,000
teachers showed up. So like you said, yes, very, very well organized.
Organized, and like, it's not like they just, hey, I'm just walking out of class. They didn't do that. So they did it in a very, like, I guess, considerate way, in my opinion.
And people knew about it, and there were, 4 or 5 districts that actually shut down because they knew this was coming.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, how much leverage would teachers have if they did their job and then in their free time they protested? Like, that doesn't make sense. There's no leverage there.
Exactly.
Like, the point of a strike is what? To, like, withhold your labor.
Yes.
That is the point of a strike, to withhold your labor so you can see some sort of outcome.
You're trying to force the hand of the group or of the collection of people that are preventing you from getting what you believe is yours. So how do you do that on off time? Like you said, there was no leverage in that because you're still going about the way of doing your job. You're not changing anything whatsoever. So why would they have to give you anything?
There's no pressure.
No pressure
and
whatsoever.
that's what Betsy DeVos wants. She doesn't want the pressure.
Yeah, because she doesn't want like positive change.
And her statement kind of, it's actually incorrect because teachers have always made formal complaints and formal petitions for better situations and better pay. This is not something that they just came up with on the blue. It's that their grievances weren't recognized and acknowledged. So it's not like they just came out of the blue and was like, one day.
Right. Like they just meeting with each other.
And just surprised everybody.
In the teacher's room, in the faculty room.
This is well known. Their grievances were well known and not addressed. So it led up to this. So it's not like she was trying to make it out to be.
Right. Politicians have already weighed in. Like there's already been a process and nothing was happening.
And they made their decision. So essentially this was, I guess, initially attempted. They were trying to handle this in a very diplomatic way.
Right.
A formal way, and it didn't work. So what else is there to do?
What Betsy DeVos want them to do is do it on your own time.
She was definitely trying to gaslight them, but it's not working. It's not working.
I think it's very ironic. It's very ironic that Betsy DeVos tries to suggest that she cares about children, like that she cares if children are hurt or not. This is the same woman that recently, in I believe it was a committee hearing, just recently.
We covered it.
We talked about it. She argued that classroom sizes should be larger, not smaller. Classroom sizes should be larger, not smaller.
And then when I forgot who was asking her, some follow-up questions about that, they asked her, "Hey, do you have any data to support this?"
Right.
And she was like, I didn't bring it with me. And she didn't have any data ready to cite. And this is the Secretary of Education.
Right.
If you are coming there to kind of, I guess, justify your position on class sizes and how you want to see education, you definitely come with binders full of data, and she didn't.
And I believe she also stated that there was no data that suggests that smaller classroom sizes,
even though there is,
actually results in better outcomes.
So the Secretary of Education didn't do her homework.
No, well, she probably knows. I mean, she does come off as a dummy a lot of times, but
she knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
I
don't think she's that much of a dummy, man. I really don't believe so. But like I said, it is very ironic that she's trying to suggest that, like, quality education is important to her.
Bet you they don't send their kids to schools with big class sizes.
Please. But you know what? This actually wasn't, because initially, I don't like Betsy DeVos. So initially it's like a wow, like, this is a very objectionable woman, no redeemable characteristics. She's somebody that it seems like she's an evil person. But this is par for the course for her, actually. When we talked about Oklahoma, because you remember Oklahoma, they were out of work for days, and I believe it was after the 5th day that they were on strike, the Oklahoma teachers. She said something that was very similar. She said, I think about the kids. I think we need to stay focused on what's right for kids. And I hope that adults would keep adult disagreements and disputes in a separate place. That's about the same damn thing. in a separate place.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, because it's not like teachers are protesting during school hours, like in school, like while they're on the clock, they're protesting like in the classroom, like holding up signs and be like, I'm not working.
Like in the cafeteria?
Yeah.
Or like in the cafeteria or some shit?
Right, no.
Or like on a football field? Or in the gym? Or an auditorium?
Education secretary, man. All right, let's go to, want to go to Sandra Bland?
Yeah, man, let's go to Sandra, man.
All right, Sandra Bland was a black woman that was stopped in Texas, for a traffic stop in Texas. This happened in July 2015. She was stopped because the officer stated that she did not signal for a lane change. She was arrested. And of course, there was video. If anybody, knows about the story, of course, there's video. There was some words exchanged between Sandra Bland and the officers, whose name is Brian and Senia. 3 days later, after she was arrested, because she spent time in the jail, she wasn't bonded out or bailed out. 3 days later, she was found in her cell hanging. She died as a result, and they did rule that it was a suicide. So there was a lot of talk about this back then, because many people, including us, felt that this was, one, an improper stop, and two, a stop or a situation that arose because of the color of her skin.
Why did he pull her over in the first place?
He stated that, the story is that it was a failure to signal for a lane change. Now, during this, like I said, this exchange between the both of them, Sandra Bland and the officer, she stated that she was trying to get out of the way.
Because he was coming up fast. I was like, I'm not worried about it. I just want to get out of the way because this cop is coming up fast.
And he was riding her tail.
Obviously has somewhere to go. Let me get over.
Right. So she just moved out of the way. Not into like oncoming traffic. It's not like she cut somebody off, but she just did not signal for the lane change. So he stopped her.
But let's just say that wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that wasn't what happened, and she just didn't, signal like she's supposed to.
Okay.
As a driver, let's just say, like, hypothetically, that's the case. Okay. It's a simple traffic violation.
It is.
If it's not like reckless, okay, failure to signal. Usually, people are giving a warning.
Yes, they are.
They're giving a warning for that. So, I guess the threat level was very low.
Right. Now, what's interesting, though, I'm glad you said that about the warning. Seems like he was going to give her a warning, because if, in the video, later on in the video, once he got Sandra Bland out of the vehicle and, they were arguing her and he was arresting her, he said that he was giving her a warning. So if he was giving her a warning because of a failure to signal, how did all of this transpire? How did this become a situation where Sandra Bland was now being pulled out of her vehicle and was being arrested on the ground, knee in her back, face pushed to the ground? How did all of this happen?
Well, Officer Insignia, in his official statement, he claimed that he feared for his life because what might be in her purse. And I guess what she was doing with her hands could be trying to distract him. And she might have been going for something in her purse. Might. Mm-hmm. So it was his imagination.
We actually, before we go there, we have that video that we want to show, because there's another video that's came to light now, and it was taken from the cell phone of Sandra Bland. So we're going to show that a little bit later, but just want to show you the first part of this interaction between the two.
You okay?
I'm waiting on you. This is your job. I'm waiting on you. What do you want me to
Oh,
say?
you seem very irritated.
I am. I really am, because I feel like it's crap for what I'm getting a ticket for. I was getting out of your way. You were speeding up, tailing me. So I move over, and you stopped me. So, yeah, I am a little irritated, but that doesn't stop you from giving me a ticket. So, let's continue.
Are you done?
You asked me what was wrong, and I told you.
Okay.
So now I'm done, yeah.
Okay. You mind putting out your cigarette, please? If you don't mind.
I'm in my car. Why do I have to put out my cigarette?
Well, you can step on out now.
I don't have to step out of my car.
Step out of the car.
Why am I...
Step out of the car.
No, you don't have the right.
Step out of the car.
You do not have the right to do that.
I do have the right. Now step out or I will remove you.
I refuse to talk to you other than to identify myself.
Step out or I will remove you.
I am getting removed for a failure.
Step out or I will remove you. I'm giving you a lawful order.
So you can see where it all went awry.
When he felt that his authority
His authority.
was challenged.
Yes. Again, later on, you hear from himself that he was going to give her a warning. So if he was going to give her a warning, the situation should have ended right there. But he starts asking a question like, you seem perturbed, like you see like something's wrong. And she goes in to explain why she feels like something's wrong, like why she feels like some type of ways, because you pulled her over and she didn't feel like she needed to be pulled over. So she's thinking she's going to get a ticket. Doesn't know that she's going to get a warning, but she's feeling like she's going to get a ticket. You asked her a question, she responded.
Exactly.
So he feels some type of way about her response, felt like his emotions can't take it. But he feels like less than a man
why would
or something. I don't know.
That's bullshit, because like you don't ask something like that unless you sense something.
Yep.
So you already like you have to be hyper aware of yourself if you're a police officer, like, and know that, hey, like when I'm walking around and I try to enforce the law, even if it's legitimate, people are going to feel some way about it.
Yeah.
When I pull people over,
Oh gosh, come on.
even when it's justified,
Yes.
I don't care if they're going 15 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, whether they're driving recklessly, whether they like completely run a red light. In a lot of cases, when people are guilty of those things and know they're guilty, they still give cops shit. So when you're a police officer, most police officers know that, when I do my job, even when I'm in the right, people are going to have an attitude. So you go into it knowing.
Yes.
So
they know they're going to deal with assholes. We know that people are going to be assholes to police officers, but being an asshole is not illegal.
Exactly. And actually, if you listen to her, she wasn't really being an asshole. He asked her,
true.
hey, what's going on? And she didn't have to answer. She was like, look, you pulled me over and I didn't feel like I deserved it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and I guess he couldn't deal with the fact that somebody just disagreed with him. And guess what? She didn't initiate, I guess, her disagreement. She didn't initiate that. She didn't feel the need to, and why you pulling me over? She didn't initiate that. No. He asked her. So he didn't like the answer.
He prolonged this whole interaction by, one, asking her about her feelings, which is not your responsibility as a cop, okay? But then after she voices her concerns and her feelings, then he asked her, hey, put down your cigarette. Give her the damn ticket, give her the damn warning, and be about your business. It's not your job to do anything else in this situation. But because now you have told her, oh, this is a lawful order, you have to put down your cigarette, you have to put that out. And she's like, no, I'm in my own vehicle, I'm in my own car, I don't have to do nothing. Give me whatever you have to give me. Oh, no, we have a problem. I gave you a lawful order and you're now refusing. Now I got to pull open the car door, yank your behind out, arrest you. And that's how this whole situation played out. So as that video goes further, they're off screen for pretty much the entirety of, all the actions, the further actions. So you can still hear them. You hear her come back into the camera and, you see her come back into the camera and put her phone on her vehicle. But the video from that phone, like, nobody ever had access to that.
Because it was her phone.
It was her phone.
And, when you get arrested, they put all your belongings in, like, a secure bag.
Right.
And then since she died, she never got those back.
Right.
And so her family got it back. And probably somebody, if her phone was dead, they charged it. If it was off, they turned it on or whatever. And they probably searched too. Because they were probably curious too.
Yeah.
I'm like, they probably were like, I bet you recorded something.
Yeah. So now we are finally getting a look at the video from her cell phone. So we're going to show you that now.
Get out of the car now.
Why am I being apprehended? You trying to give me a ticket for the failure?
Get out of the car.
Why am I being apprehended? You just
I'm giving
opened
you
my
an
car
lawful order.
door. You just
I'm
opened
gonna
my car
drag you
door.
out of here.
So you threatening to drag me out of my own car.
Get out of the car.
And then you
I
gonna
will
stun
light
me?
you up. Get out.
Wow.
Now.
Wow.
Get out of the
Really,
car.
for a failure to signal. You doing all of this for a
Get
failure
over
to signal.
there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, let's take this to court. Let's do
Go
it.
ahead.
For a failure to signal. Yep, for a failure to signal.
Get off the phone.
On my school.
Get off the phone.
I'm not on the phone. I have a right to
Put your
record. This
phone
is my
down.
property. This
Put
is
your
my
phone
property.
down.
Sir?
Put your phone down right now.
I do think it's interesting that she said she wanted to take him to court, which suggests that she had no intention of killing herself. I mean, things do change if you're in jail for 3 days, but she had to, once she went to jail, she probably considered, hey, I'm going to be here for a day or two. She probably already considered that. When she says, I'm taking you to court, she's making that consideration too.
Right.
So she knows something is about to go down.
Yeah.
Whatever that something is, she planned on taking him to court because she knew she was in the right and he was in the wrong. So I just don't see her, killing herself.
I don't either.
And she's about to start a new job too, right?
Yeah. Just the circumstances behind it, nobody was really around at the time, and they found her hours later. I mean, look, the details are sketchy.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was ruled that she was a suicide. She committed suicide. When I see that video and I see him telling her to put the put the camera down, and she's telling him, no, this is my right. I can video you if I want to. I'm saying, yeah, hell yeah, you can. You can videotape the police. And so he had no right to tell her to put the camera down. But then I think to myself, I'm like, you know what? He's arresting her at this point. So yeah, he believes that he is in the right at this point because he's in the, I guess he's in the process.
He's in the mode.
Yeah, he's in the process
But he's
of
not
arresting her.
But he's not telling her that.
No, he's not. He's not. He's just saying, put the phone down, put the phone down. So then she puts the phone down, and then, you can't see that because, of course, the her video shuts off and they're off camera on the dash cam footage. But then he's telling her to put her hands behind her back, he's going to arrest her, this and that. Again, this was all the result of an escalation by this police officer. Police officers, as I've been told, as I've heard many, many times, they're supposed to be trained in the art of de-escalation, not escalation. All this officer had to do was provide her with the ticket. We have seen, we saw, there was one case, and I can't remember like where it happened, and I can't remember the woman's name. But this was a case that we highlighted where the officer was actually in the right. You remember, it was a woman, it was a black woman, and she felt like she was targeted. She felt like this was because of the, she was pulled over because of her skin color, and she was going to take action and this and that. And then it was like a day or two after, the video footage came out immediately. Mm-hmm. And so you actually saw everything that transpired.
Oh, it was, she said like she was sexually assaulted. There was a couple of them that we covered where they immediately released a video.
It was the video where the officer was just like, hey, here's your ticket, here's your ticket, here's your ticket. And then she had to sign it. And he was telling her, if you don't sign it, then I have to take you to jail. And so she ultimately signed it. But you could see and you could hear that this officer never insulted her. He never took any action that was illegal or anything. He didn't do anything but provide her a ticket, and that's it, and then walk back to the video. He was professional the whole way through. So that's exactly what should have happened in the case of Sandra Bland and this officer Insignia. Just provide her the ticket or the warning, let her be about her business. But he couldn't do that. He couldn't do that. So he was fired. He was fired not because of this, not really because of his actions, related to the, I can't say related to the incident. He wasn't fired because he stopped Sandra Bland. He wasn't fired because he arrested Sandra Bland. He was fired because he lied about it. Like, I guess on the official forums and how he reported.
Yeah. During an interview, he said, my safety was in jeopardy at more than one time. And he also said that I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know if a crime was being committed, had been committed or whatnot, said the trooper. Let's see. He said in an audio recording, Insidious said he became concerned by the way Bland was acting and her movements inside her car was as he watched from his patrol vehicle while writing her a warning citation. So this is all concerns, supposed concerns he had before he even walked up
So
to
through
the car.
his windshield, he's seeing somebody in their car moving
Doing
around.
something odd.
And that's
he says,
suspicious.
so when asked what crime he believed Bland was committing or about to commit, Insidia responded, I had a feeling that anything could have been either retrieved or hidden within her area of control. My primary concern was with that purse, with their console, or as far as being any kinds of weapons or drugs. It's unknown to me. And I'm just like, that's why I brought that up earlier, because that's what that was his story afterwards. My thing was, again, all of this occurred. He's claiming he had all of these apprehensions before he walked up to the car. But he walked up to the car and there's no way those apprehensions were validated because he was talking to her.
Yes.
And then he asked her, do you have a problem?
Right.
So all that bullshit about, she's moving around or she could be doing this is garbage, because when he walked up, he started talking to her.
If that was true, then when he walked up and he was actually in fear for his life and what may have been in the vehicle, he would have asked her to get out of the vehicle right then. He would have done something. He would have addressed it in some way. Hey, take a step out of the vehicle for me. Because if she's inside the vehicle and you do suspect that something's going on, maybe you don't want that scenario. You want her out of the vehicle so you can actually look at her and see her hands, she's in view more. But he didn't take those actions.
Yeah,
it looked like he was just going to give her the warning and be about her business and let her be about her business, let him be about his business. But
until
she said something that he didn't like, and that's what took it further.
Obviously, all this stuff, his explanation while being interviewed, all of that was just things he made up after the fact to justify his aggression. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because, I don't know, if that was something he actually thought at the time, let's just say that. Let's just say these are things he thought at the time, that, because he said he's worried about the center console, her going in there.
Right.
Going into her purse. He was just worried about that stuff. Even if that was the case, I think any superior or prosecutor that had common sense would be like, that's bogus.
Right.
That's bogus, because that's not, you're pretty much admitting that it's your imagination.
Yes. You
And
just
not
dreamt it up.
Yeah, it's your imagination and not observation that created sufficient probable cause to escalate the situation.
So you're not doing police work.
Yeah, that's what he's admitting that,
Yeah.
because all he's worried about is what could be. It's possible. You see what I'm saying? It's possible if a cop pulls me over, there's a lot of things that are possible.
No doubt.
I could possibly have a body in my trunk, tied up, kidnap somebody. You know what I'm saying? I could have possibly just robbed a convenience store.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I could possibly
You could
have
have just shot another cop.
I could possibly have grenades in my glove box and is about to throw it at them. I could possibly those things are possible, but that's
Anything is possible.
anything is possible. You don't apply anything that's possible to every situation you get into. No. He's conflating his imagination with actual observation. So he's using his imagination to create probable cause.
I guarantee that guidelines, procedures, as it relates to Texas, he was a state trooper. Yeah, Texas state trooper.
That's a state trooper.
I guarantee you that it doesn't say anything about, hey, anything that's possible. You have to let that be, I guess,
you're guiding.
Yeah. What guides your actions here? Anything that's possible.
Yo, man.
So if you can dream it up, that's police activity.
That's crazy.
You have to investigate.
Because now, if I guess approaching a situation like that is permitted, then any kind of action or reaction by a police officer is permitted, because anything is possible.
The Constitution goes.
He didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out he had a gun, nor did he point it at me. but that was possible because he had a bag. There was a bag in his back seat, and that bag could have possibly had a gun or a weapon. So I had to shoot him because it was possible. Or I had to escalate the situation because it was possible.
What about on his way back to the vehicle? He felt like there was a gun on him walking back to the vehicle. So he turns around, but he didn't see a gun, but he had a strong suspicion that there was one. So now I can search the vehicle. You can't do this. So again, he was caught up because of perjury. That perjury charge was dismissed, but he had to agree not to work in law enforcement again. It's good. It's good that this will not be an officer of the law anymore, but there should be something more that happens to him. There should definitely be something more that happens to him because he is responsible for the death of Sandra Bland. Any way it happened, if it was in fact suicide or if it was something that is a lot shadier than that, in any way, he is responsible for the death of Bland. He is. Because, again, I think all of his training, all of the right procedures that should have guided him would have told him to de-escalate rather than escalate. Would have told him just to provide that warning and let her be about her business.
I don't think any amount of training could have prevented this. I think in a lot of cases we cover, it has to do with training. In this case, it just seemed like he wanted to harass her.
Yes.
It just seemed like he wanted to abuse his power.
Yeah.
I don't think you can train that out of somebody. That's not. I don't think you can train that out. Well,
I'm just saying
you can't train that out.
He wasn't trained to do that. I don't believe he was trained to escalate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like you said, I definitely take your point because if you're a police officer, which means you're a human, if you have that characteristic where you want to be an asshole, if you're an asshole in regular life and you want to still be an asshole as a police officer, then you're going to be an asshole. And so rules, guidelines, procedures, all of that,
it's going to go out the window.
It doesn't matter.
You want to do what you want to do.
Exactly. Somebody says something to you that you believe is sly or, something that is challenging you, your authority, your manner, anything like that, then you're going to do something about it, even though guidelines don't suggest you do that. Guidelines don't mandate you do that. Guidelines
how many times have we covered some of these cases where a police was out of pocket and he violated procedure?
Yeah. Too many.
Like the case we covered a couple months ago with the cop jumping on the hood.
Oh my gosh.
Jumping on the hood, firing right through the windshield.
Right. Putting himself in harm's way.
Or the case in was it Hamden? Was it Hamden where the dude they thought the car matched the description of I guess a car that was involved in a robbery, and they boxed the car in, and they told the guy to get up and put up his hands, and he gets out of the car, puts up his hands and turns around, and the guy starts shooting immediately, and starts shooting at him and misses him, shoots at the passenger side, hits the lady twice, and starts running off.
That's right.
And running and shooting like this.
Backwards. Yeah, exactly. And there was no weapons in the car. Nobody was shooting at him.
They found out that they had nothing to do with it.
Nothing at all. He was just so scared that he started shooting.
He just got startled for some reason.
And that was all imagination.
Imagination.
We see this too. We see this too often. And in that case, nobody died, so that's good. But in cases like Sandra Bland, somebody died as a result of. I don't even. Possible imagination, because I don't even know if it's true that he really deemed that something was a threat in her vehicle.
We're just saying.
That's
saying,
his story.
Yeah, we're just saying. Well, we both think that he made all that up after the fact to justify it.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, we're saying if that was true, it still doesn't make sense.
No.
So hypothetically, if these are things that were going through his head during the situation, it still would be bunk.
Yep. And his attorney, after this new video came out from Sandra Bland's cell phone, his attorney's name is Chip Lewis, and he said that this new video doesn't add anything to what we already know. It didn't provide anything in addition. And he said that Bland made, quote, furtive gestures, end quote, that presented a risk.
What? Who? What gestures? Like... Recording. So that's a furtive gesture. Recording someone, recording your stop. Obviously, if I have
a cigarette in your hand,
having a cigarette in your hand,
that's so suspicious.
If I have a cigarette,
very suspicious.
If I have a cigarette and a phone, like I'm thinking, like the person is just interested in recording me. That's if they have, and smoking. But if they have a phone, I'm just going to assume that's what they're interested in doing, recording me and not causing me harm or shooting me or being a threat to my life.
Well, you know, the one suspicious thing about Sandra Bland was that, you know, there was one suspicious thing about Sandra Bland. There's one thing that we've talked about many times, and it doesn't really matter how you carry yourself, what clothes you wear, how nice your hair looks.
Wait a second,
how pretty your smile is, or anything like that.
She wasn't wearing like really like baggy clothes.
Nah.
She had no back. She wasn't sagging.
No.
She wasn't wearing like gang. She didn't have like a gang outfit on.
Like,
you know,
like a grill in.
Grill.
Something like that. No. That suspicious thing is that old skin color.
Oh, the pigments.
Yep.
The pigments.
The pigmentation.
Pigments.
That's the suspicious thing.
But man,
too much.
I didn't look into this guy, but I do wonder if he has some other incidents where he kind of was overly aggressive.
It would make sense that there would be other, because like you said, it wasn't even the most. It wasn't even the most that Sandra Bland did. We've seen some instances where people are actually being assholes to police officers, shouting at them, yelling at them, insulting them, demeaning them, and officers can't do anything about it because, again, it's not against the law.
It's not against the law to curse.
Nope.
Or give cops middle fingers.
No.
Things I've never done. Well,
Yeah.
cursed. I've cursed.
Yeah, you've cursed.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've cursed.
Yeah, cursed.
Not like go out of my way to like agitate or give a middle finger, but
No.
yeah.
But still, that's not against the law.
Yeah.
And she didn't reach that length at all. She was just understandably perturbed because she was stopped and she thought it was unjustified. So if you ask her, why do you know, is there something wrong? Well, she's going to tell you. She's that type of person. She's going to tell you what's wrong. She did it in an assertive voice. You know, there was some passion behind her words, but she didn't yell at him.
Yeah,
She didn't curse at him.
Definitely, there was no yelling.
Not at that point.
Not at that point.
Yeah.
You can
But
tell.
he couldn't take that. He couldn't take that.
He was so soft and marshmallowy on the inside.
Soft as pie, man. All right. We don't have. Well, you know what? We can do one update because you know this kind of we were talking about Sandra Bland, so we can. There's an update to the Dime 11 story. So this was maybe last month, maybe the month prior to that. I'm not sure exactly when we talked about it, but Dime 11, black woman. This was in Florida, Miami-Dade County. And she was arrested. And we showed the video of that. She was with her friend, and they were leaving the friend's house. And there was a neighbor, a white man, older white man, that, you know, was shouting insults at them. And, you know, I guess, you know, they shouted some back at him. After that, he took out a shotgun and pointed at him. So they got out of there, you know, they ran, and then they called the police. Police showed up. There was one particular officer that showed up, and his name is Alejandro Giraldo. He showed up and was immediately hostile, not really dealing with this with the seriousness that it should be dealt with. And they felt some type of way about that. And you can imagine that this is a very tense situation.
Just having a gun pointed at you.
Yeah. So it's tense. So that's going to be reflected in your actions, in your voice. Everything's going to be heightened. And this officer couldn't deal with it. He kept telling her, you know, to calm down, threatened to arrest her if she didn't lower her voice, which again,
if she wasn't even,
not even the most.
Yeah, it wasn't even that loud, and it was more about not the volume, but her tone.
Yes.
But her tone kind of illustrated her emotions.
Right.
Like being like distraught, being like traumatized.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, you can tell. It wasn't like, you can tell the difference when somebody's upset because they're angry at, like, I can tell, like when someone is angry at me, or they're angry about something that happened and they're telling me. You can tell the difference between the two. When they're like upset about something that happened and they're just telling me about it, I'm not gonna be like, why are you mad at me? Obviously, I can tell the difference.
But it's still not against the law. Even if they were being unreasonable, still not against the law to be upset and emotional in public. Still not against the law. But it could, like I said, this officer Geraldo couldn't take it, and he ended up, grabbing her, forcing her to the ground, arresting her. She spent hours locked up until she was bailed out. They hadn't even gotten the neighbor yet. It wasn't until days later that they actually got the neighbor and charged him. Didn't even get him, but they got Don 11 though. They got her though. So now the officer that brutally arrested her, again, Officer Geraldo, he's going to be charged. He's being charged with 1 count of misdemeanor battery and felony official misconduct. So, it's something. It's something.
It's something, because it's just like Insenia. He felt some kind of way just because she was told that, or he was told that, hey, I don't think you're doing enough. That's basically what she said. You're not doing enough. And he felt some kind of way about it. What? You don't think I'm doing enough? Like, put your hands behind your back.
Yeah.
He just grabbed her.
Right. It was so egregious, his actions. But anyway, like you said, he is being charged. I believe he was fired, right? He was already fired.
I don't know if he was fired.
I believe we reported that he was fired.
He probably was fired because they probably wouldn't keep him on if he was charged.
Yeah.
If they decided to charge him, he's probably gone. I think earlier maybe I think he had been like, he was under review, but I can't remember. But yeah, if they charged his ass, you know he don't work there.
True.
You know what I'm saying? I remember when I was, they do that at most businesses. Like when, like if you do something illegal, like steal money from a place you work at, they fire you first.
Yeah.
They fire you first, then they charge you.
This particular article doesn't say that he had been fired, but I'm pretty sure that we had reported, because we had provided another update to this, because at first we only had the video from the friend, but later on we had video from the body cam.
Oh yeah. We did an update, so it was like the third time we talked about it.
And you remember that
it was worse.
Oh gosh,
the body cam was worse.
Oh gosh, because you got to see everything, like from before the friend was videoing, and the whole encounter was
it illustrated how he was out of control and whatnot.
But like I said, he's being charged. So again, we note many times that there's a process here when you're talking about accountability, and being charged is only one step in the process. So there are other steps that must be reached. So these charges are not the most serious. You know what I mean? Again, it's a misdemeanor count of battery, and then there is a felony official misconduct. I don't know what the potential time, the sentence time is. I have no idea. I have a feeling that there's going to be a settlement that is reached, some type of, I believe I don't. Do you see this going to trial?
Nope.
I don't see it going to trial.
Because it's misdemeanor battery.
Yeah. I think there is going to be a plea agreement. I don't believe there's going to be jail time.
I don't know. So battery is first degree misdemeanor, which has a maximum punishment of 1 year in jail and $1,000 fine. But yeah, I
would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked.
What's the exact charge? Because this one just says simple battery in Florida, 12 months.
12 months.
Simple battery misdemeanor in Florida. It says 12 months. I could be wrong, but
misdemeanor battery, felony official misconduct.
Now, official misconduct, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea about that. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it says like 12 months. So he might have to serve like 1 or 2 months, maybe. Some minimum security joint.
We'll keep an eye on it.
And the misconduct probably is only going to result in him not being able to be a police officer again or something.
Right. I really suspect it's not going to trial, and I would be shocked if he actually even serves 1 day. I would really be shocked. At this point, I don't know for sure that Diamond Lovin is suing. I think we had talked about it before that it is possible that she's going to be suing. I think she definitely should sue. Yeah, she should. So, like I said, that's just an update that we wanted to provide you. So that's basically all we have for tonight's episode. So we'd like to get to the segment where we hear from you now. So definitely, if you have any questions or any comments, that's the wrong graphic. Yeah, but if you have any questions, any comments, we would love to hear from you. The number to call in is 669-900-6833, and we will be sure to put you on. Like to hear from some new callers. If anyone's out there that has not called into the show, we invite you to do so. Like I said, we want to hear the familiar voices, but we want to hear new voices as well. I think I've seen in the chat section a few times about a school shooting that happened today. I think Denver. I don't think I
haven't heard about that.
I don't think I heard about it.
One other thing that I saw before the show that I thought it was interesting, but the whole kind of Chelsea Manning thing, what did that surround? That surrounded her exposing a lot of war crimes that were being committed by our military, right?
Right.
And she was working with Julian Assange. That was the contact, so that this information could be exposed. Would a U.S. soldier driving Iraqi detainee out to a field when they were just supposed to be transporting them to a location, like from point A to point B, if that was the job of some a military personnel, their job was to transport, I guess, an Iraqi detainee from point A to point B, and they stopped. They took the detainee to a field and then executed them. Would that be considered a war crime? Would that be considered a war crime?
It sounds like a war crime.
Yeah, it is. It is. That individual, this actually happened. That individual was dishonorably discharged and convicted of murder in the United States. So yeah, but someone pardoned him just recently. Someone pardoned him. Guess who that was?
Who has the power to pardon?
Who has the power to pardon?
You couldn't be talking about Trump. You could not possibly be talking about Trump. There's no way that you're talking about Trump. Because Trump is the law and order president.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was Iraqi prison, but I know he was a Muslim. I don't know if it was Iraqi or not. I can't remember where it was, but he was Muslim, and he was supposed to be transported back somewhere. And this soldier decided to take upon himself and take him to a field and just execute him. And he was convicted in the court of law, rightfully so. And Donald Trump pardoned him. What kind of message do you think that sends?
Was he supportive of Trump beforehand?
I don't know. I don't even think it has to do with this particular soldier's support of Trump, but I think it has to do with how Trump views certain people and whether those people are expendable or not, and whether their lives mean anything. And the fact that this was a Muslim that was killed in cold blood, execution style, doesn't matter to Trump. You know what I'm saying? This was the kind of thing that, like, people who supported Chelsea Manning and what she exposed would kind of stand up for or be outraged about, that kind of activity, right? So I don't think you can do both. I don't think you can support Julian Assange, support people like Chelsea Manning and whistleblowers, for taking the, for exposing the United States military-industrial complex and, the heinous acts that are committed by our military, while at the same time supporting Donald Trump, someone who obviously doesn't care about things like that, behavior like that.
All right, so we got our first caller. It's from the 253 area code, so let's welcome the caller to the stream. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan, Montana.
What's going on, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, man. Can't complain. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I opened up a notepad for this.
Okay.
I have 4 things. I
Some
got
stuff to talk about.
just stuff that I was typing. I typed in the notepad while I'm watching. I'm like, hey, I don't want to talk about this. So I got religion, protesting, incrementalism, and somebody in the chat was talking about abolishing police.
Abolishing police.
Yeah. All right, man. Just you can go on that list any order you want or how you feel comfortable, man.
Okay. I'll start with the first one that I put was religion. I think I put that one because we were talking about it or something, and my only problem with religion is that it teaches people to believe in fantastical things, so that it makes them more susceptible to conspiracy theories and being pseudoscience and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not all,
but I guess I take the position that Neil deGrasse Tyson does. He came up with a phrase. I don't know if he came up with it. Just the first time I heard it. It's called the God of the Gaps. I don't know if I can do a real good job of explaining it, but probably.
I think it's kind of self-explanatory.
It's self-explanatory. Basically, when groups of people can't explain something, some phenomenon in life or in the world, they kind of fill in the gaps with God. They say they don't have an answer, so they say, well, God did it.
Be God.
And see, that creates a dilemma, because once society progresses and we have the answers, their God starts disappearing because we fill in those gaps with actual knowledge and actual understanding.
But they're not ready to accept
They're
that.
not ready to accept that.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And so I think, like Jordan said, I think that kind of happens in politics too, and I see it all the time. And I'm glad you mentioned conspiracy theories, because that's kind of a religion too, and I see it happening there. Like, what people do is they since they can't explain something, they really don't have an answer, they fill that gap in with things like Illuminati, deep state, George Soros, globalists. So they kind of fill in this gap the same way that people who can't explain certain phenomena, certain happenings on this planet, they just fill that in with this sky daddy and say God did it. They do the same thing in, conspiracy theories and politics too. They just kind of fill in the blank.
One of the I mean, look, I have a lot of problems with religion, and I guess beliefs, how people perceive religion, things like that. I mean, I have some problems with that. One of the biggest problems I have with people trying to connect politics and religion together is the notion that God selects all presidents. You've heard that before?
Yes, I've heard that, but I've also seen that be conditional too. So the people that even push that notion, they make that very conditional. Like, only on certain presidents, God's chosen.
Right.
Like, the other presidents, they're chosen by the devil or something.
I guess you can make the fantastical say whatever you want it to say.
That's why I do think people who combine religion and politics and religion and conspiracy theory are very unstable, and dangerous.
Yeah, it's just about your worldview. So I mean, of course, it's going to affect your worldview. And just from my experience, people I've met who are deeply religious, the true believers, they'll believe anything, man.
Yeah.
Because you don't really you don't really need any evidence. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't really need. You've already kind of been conditioned to not require evidence for what you believe. So if you take that kind of mindset into politics, man, you can be manipulated
And the evidence is actually the lack of evidence to a lot of people. Like, they don't have to provide evidence because, see, this and this, I mean, like, you pair all of this information together, it must mean this. Even though it's, like I said, it's troubling, man. It's troubling.
Yeah, I'm agnostic, so like, because I think that's the most scientific approach. Is, you know, like my problem isn't with like the concept of there being a creator of the universe. My problem is with organized religion.
Mm-hmm. Like, look, I have no problem with people believing whatever they want to. I really don't. I've said many times that, you know, I guess the significant problem arises when they are trying to force those teachings, those beliefs on other people. I have a problem with that. But just you believe in something, I mean, cool. If you have, you know, lived long enough and you've seen X, Y, and Z, and you've seen certain life situations, you've lived certain life experiences, and it's led you to a point where it's like, you know what? I do believe this. You know, the Bible rings true for me, and la la la. Cool. I mean, that's fine. But how sure these people are, like that's a real problem for me. Like, if you're so sure that you have an answer for everything, but your answer isn't actually rooted in evidence or anything like that, that's a problem for me. And you're so sure that you're imparting that, like, wisdom onto everybody else, and you're trying to force everybody else to live that same lifestyle. And when you have a real problem when you do that with kids too, because with kids, they're impressionable. They have no say so on this. They can't refuse you. They have to live that lifestyle. And a lot of these kids grow up and they never question it, you know, and they become that adult that's, you know, forcing the same stuff down their kids' throats. And it's just, I have a problem with that.
So what you got next, man? What's next on your list?
Yeah. So next I had protesting. I think I just put that because I wanted to say that, like, people try to they try and minimize a protest because, like, some violence might have happened or whatever, and then they just hyper focus on that instead of, like, you know, I don't know.
They hyper focus on not only certain instances of violence, which are rare. They hyper focus on the inconvenience that the protest causes, because that's
that's the whole point.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point. The whole point is to inconveniencing, I guess, the public is a message. They're sending a message. They're saying, because we're inconvenienced by maybe being disenfranchised in a certain way. We're inconvenienced by the amount of abuse we have to be subjected to. We're inconvenienced by a system that doesn't see us as valuable. So we're going to inconvenience, you know, the police or the public. So it's trying to get people to understand that, hey, you feel this way, well, we feel this way 100 times over, you know.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, it's just utility, though. Like, protests have to be inconvenient to the public, because if it wasn't, then it could just be put in the corner. You know, it has to upset the power structure. The people who hold the power, has to upset them. Otherwise, you know, they'll just ignore it.
Yeah, the power structure, and unfortunately, those citizens who support it. That's part of it too. You see what I'm saying? Whether either the citizens that support it or citizens that are apathetic to it. So that we have to have, like, a large group of people that, you know, I guess we have to have a large group of people to be for or against something in order to make movement or to make progress of something. And if we don't, then it's not going to happen. So yeah, everybody kind of has to, unfortunately, feel that level of inconvenience to, you know, at least have at least to develop inclination to want to do something about the problem that's being presented.
Yeah, I feel like people today are lazier than we used to be, because, like, after World War II, or, like, right before, during that whole time, like, all the labor movements and stuff, there were millions of people in the streets and stuff, and they built up the unions. And then now people are just, like, apathetic. uninformed?
Well, I think it's the result of technology that it's easier to actually be misinformed, at least. I don't know about uninformed.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, there's a lot of uninformed people. But
Yeah, no, you're right.
being misinformed
Yeah,
is,
that's a much better word.
yeah, technology has made that a lot easier.
Yeah, all right, well, I got two more on the list. I got incrementalism. I think I probably put that on the list because it's bad. At least the mindset, you know, like the result of incrementalism versus the mindset. Like, you're just like, okay, we got to, like, capitulate up front, and that's not going to get you anywhere, you know?
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say to that. We've talked in, I guess, in incrementalism doesn't work. It makes things that much better, but it doesn't keep up with the rate of, you know, the where we need things to go. It just doesn't, you know, I guess affect suffering in a very instrumental way. Whatever. I mean but that's what the country wants to do. That's what a lot of people that are in integral figures, you know, powerful figures. They want the country to move in that way. They don't want dramatic change. So.
Yeah, because then you come up front with something like the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
You know, or like, and then you get less than what you even came with on that, and then it's just like, okay,
Right.
so we're just going to do nothing, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like, how does, like, why do we have to do the shitty thing before we do the thing that we need to do? You know, it's like it's a scam.
It is a scam. It is a scam, man.
Yeah. All right. So my last thing was abolishing cops because everybody was talking about it in chat, and you know, I think that, you know, police force, I think they provide like a necessary service.
Uh-huh.
You know, so we can't just like abolish the whole institution because, like, you know, you need like emergency response, like all the shit that goes on in this country. And you see it on the news and like all the standoffs and shooters and shit. Like, come on, you're just gonna abolish police force? Like,
Yeah,
don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, they feel a necessary gap, just like any other profession. I don't elevate them over any other profession that we need in society, because we need people who specialize in something, because we can't do everything. You know, we have, you know, plumbers, we have car mechanics, we have teachers, we have nurses. They all fill a necessary gap in society. And we have humans who do bad things to other humans. We have humans who steal from one another. We have humans who kill, beat, abuse, rape one another. So
We cannot police ourselves.
so we do need a third party there. There is a necessary gap that needs to be there.
If there was no evil in the world,
yeah, then we don't know. Yeah,
then we wouldn't need it. Yeah.
We need a third party.
No lying, no cheating.
Yeah, we need
no
somebody
crying.
to apprehend those people. We need a system that sentences those people to adequate amount of time, rehabilitation, all that. We need judges. We do need jails.
That's kind of like saying that we don't need jails.
Yeah, we do need those things. It's just the context in which those things exist that's the problem, and they exist in an environment of capitalism and people who want to profit off of crime and create things or certain behaviors as crime so they can't profit off of those things. That doesn't mean you like completely trash or throw away the entire system on the concept of policing.
You insert the profit motive, then it's gonna get corrupt, no doubt. But yeah, I don't think we've never. I'm not gonna say we. I don't think. No, we have never advocated for, you know, just dismantling the profession of law enforcement.
Yeah, it's just people were talking about that in the chat. I just wanted to bring it up. But that's just stupid. Like you're just making like
it's kind of libertarianish. That's libertarianish.
It is.
Yeah, you're making like a meme of yourself, and you're like just misinforming people, and like, you know, it's just stupid. It's just really dumb.
All right, Jordan. We appreciate you calling in,
all right,
man.
thanks.
Love hearing your take on things, man.
All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
All right. All right. Yeah, that's extreme libertarianism. You remember that? I will never forget that debate.
The jetpacks.
The jetpacks.
They asked the libertarians, "Hey, what are you going to do about roads?" There was a lot of different, takes.
Oh yes.
There were a couple of my favorite.
Yeah.
It was like, basically his idea would result in only the paved roads leading to certain businesses.
Yeah.
Like, let the capitalists and the businesses pay for the roads. I was like, they're only going to pay the roads that lead to businesses that they own.
Right.
And
Why
then
would they pay for roads leading anywhere else?
Well, where else? And then another dude said, "Hey, jetpacks." I was like, nah. I was like, let me change it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man.
Jetpacks, so we'll get over that.
That debate was
the free market will take care of that, and that's why jetpacks are going to be a thing by that time. I was like, wow.
Like extreme.
I was
that's anarchy.
I was like, do you realize that now we have to have like jetpack regulation, and have to have like air traffic control for all these citizens using jetpacks now?
We'll take care of it though.
We'll take care.
We'll take care of it. Yeah. We don't need any kind of institution or anything like that. We'll take care of it.
Mangled bodies everywhere. My gosh.
All right, 214. You're on the air live.
Hey guys, it's Sharon Formation. How are y'all doing?
Good. How you doing today, Sharon?
I'm doing all right. I'm so glad y'all are back because I was going through some LTMB withdrawals about that second Thursday y'all weren't around. But I'm glad y'all were back.
I hope everything's starting that itching, getting the hives and stuff.
Hope everything's going better for you. So I have a couple of topics I want to talk about pertaining to what y'all covered in tonight's show. I had a teacher, I work in a big family practice clinic, and I had a teacher come in today in tears wanting to be seen for depression. One of her many, things that upset her was the fact that she's a Title I teacher. Title I teachers teach, lower income classes. Right. And, something that's been going on for a very long time, although albeit the condescending cunt that is DeVos isn't making it any better by making teachers have classrooms that have not only people, kids that have relatively, higher learning capabilities, but they also, put autistic children and mental retardation children that are in the same classroom that they're expected to teach. Wow. And they simply can't do it. It is setting them up to fail on purpose. Now, I have a good friend of mine that went to school and got a master's in education, and she taught for 2 years as a Title I teacher. And she said that there were days that she'd cry all the way home because the curriculum that is given to these teachers have no interest whatsoever in teaching them anything of substance. She was dumbfounded that even though her entire class was full of black children, that none of them knew anything about the civil rights era, nothing about Harriet Tubman, nothing about anything. And she felt very bad about that fact, but then she also came to the realization, as I have, we're both 52. We didn't really, we went to school in Alabama. We didn't learn shit about the civil rights era. We went into a school that was just about 20 miles north of Birmingham, or Birmingham as we know it to be. And we didn't know anything about Bull Connor or the Freedom Riders or the Child's March or the bomb that killed the 4 little girls in Birmingham. We didn't learn that shit. So my question that I would love to pose to y'all is, do you think that racism would still exist or be as prevalent as it is today if people just had some damn education about the plight of African Americans in America? I mean, do you think that it would still exist as much if people really knew about it all? Because I would say that it wouldn't. What do y'all think?
I think it would.
Well, I think
it would.
Well, not to the same extent.
No. It would look different.
It would definitely, yeah.
Like what we see, and look, any kind of criticism of Donald Trump or anybody in his administration who, we would deem as bigoted or racist, it doesn't start with them, no doubt. Now, I think with Donald Trump, a lot of people have said that he has emboldened a lot of these people to come out of the woodworks and really express how they feel. And you see a lot more instances of like hate crimes and just their hateful and bigoted type of feelings just out in public. But yeah, racism was not invented by anybody in 2019 that's walking around.
Oh, of course not. No, of course not.
Yeah. So I just want to throw that out there. But like you said, if we actually had society where we were taught things of the past, even the uncomfortable things of the past, and Black history, which is just history, if we were actually taught that, I think it would be a different society in the way it's reflected in public. But those internal feelings by some, people that feel those racist feelings, those would remain. But it's just that they wouldn't express them in the same way.
But see, again, if she's talking about education, she's talking about establishing a curriculum. Mm-hmm. And if our, educational model did establish a type of curriculum that did include a lot of what she was talking about, that means that means the leadership had the inclination to do those things. And if the leadership had the inclination to do those things, most likely they are modeling behavior that is antithetical to those times where people were disenfranchised. Yeah. Most likely. If they have the inclination to kind of adjust curriculum in a way that reflects progress, most likely they are modeling behavior. And I do think that's important too. I can't see one existing without the other, because if the curriculum is there, then I'm pretty sure there's going to be some model behavior within society, because that's where a lot of it comes from. A lot of the behavior is modeled.
Right. Well, we're talking about people in leadership positions too. Like if we have people in leadership positions that are able to foster that society, great. But like we know, they don't speak for everybody.
But I do think that Sharon, you bring up a good point. I do think that's probably the starting point.
Yeah.
I do think it should be done, I say institutionally, but I mean institutionally in regard to a brick and mortar building, because institutional just means practice or tradition. So obviously it'd have to start up here first, but
we got a long way to go.
Yeah, we got a long way to go, and I do think this is where I kind of agree with Marianne Williamson, because that's kind of her position, that she thinks that it's not that there is all these racists out there. It's not that a majority of Americans are racist. It's that I guess our educational structure is not set up for people to understand the racial hierarchy and the different experiences different groups of people had historically in the United States to end up where we are now. Like the education is not there. So I think that's where you start at, Sharon, is education.
And that's a terrific point. But not just that, we're not really taught to empathize as well. So it's not just about the information, but to actually empathize with people that are not like you. You empathize with people that you can't really relate to their situations and their experiences, but you can hear it. You can hear it. You can take it in and say, okay, you know what? I understand what you're talking about. Okay, let's work together. I'm with you, blah, blah, blah. Just for the common good. I don't think that's like prevalent in our society.
And I don't even think it's just, I think that just to solely focus on race would be a bit misguided, because if you just look at like the mindset that a lot of Americans have in general, regardless of race, it's very it lacks empathy, it's very individualistic, and it's very selfish. So I think those two things combined, I don't think it's just race. I just think the perception that people have about this country, all it does is it kind of infuses that racism. Because deeply entrenched. Yeah, I think the United States does it too. I don't think it's just it's just white people being racist. I guess that's the basis of it. But if you just look at how people talk about the United States and how people view their country in relation to other countries, it's very separatist. It's very exceptional. We're exceptional. Because you even have black people who will parrot certain talking points that originated with white people, such as disparaging views on immigrants or disparaging views on, let's say, Muslims. So you have black people tapping into this American exceptionalism too, because they've been assimilated. So
Right.
it's a combination of.
No, I mean,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that. I mean, it's deeply entrenched, no doubt. And we all agree that racism stems from ignorance. And I just think that, politicians like Trump wouldn't be able to pull off what he pulls off by dividing us as such if there was more knowledge based around just white people and black people in general. I mean, like I said, I knew nothing about the civil rights era or the plight of black people in the country, even though I grew up in the heart of it, in the thick of it, and I didn't learn that in school. And even the fact that black children aren't even learning it. If they don't learn it from home, they're not learning it at all. And I just think it puts us in a very fragile predicament, and it allows politicians to use it to further divide the country in a way that I think is abhorrent. But just real quick, because I don't want to I know there's probably other callers. Real quick, I wanted to also tell y'all about, y'all mentioned the Georgia Herbert. We'll hear about the policy that trying to push, that any doctor that performs an abortion can get up to 99 years in prison. They're pushing that. So, I mean, yeah, they're out for that. I mean, again, it's racism and abortion. These are issues that politicians perpetuate, in my opinion. And I think it's disgusting. And I wish that the populace was a little bit more, I wish we had Teflon on us to be able to repel a bunch of the bullshit that is perpetuated by politicians. But it's so good to talk to you guys, and I appreciate y'all hearing me out. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Yo.
Thank you for calling in, Sharon.
Definitely appreciate the call, Sharon.
Love hearing from you.
Damn, for real.
Love you.
Love you too.
Yeah, that's I don't think I heard about the possible sentencing for the doctors, but it's not it's not surprising. Again, that bill in Georgia is very likely to get struck down at some point. It's due to become legislation next year in January. So, Planned Parenthood, the ACLU, they're already talking about, a lawsuit. Of course, they're going to challenge it in court. And like I said, it's very likely that it's going to be struck down, whether it's at the state level, federal level, whatever. But yeah, man, they keep trying these things. I always, well, not always, but several times I've talked about demagogues. And man, as long as demagogues are able to have the platforms that they do, we will continuously see the things that, that we are seeing in the society. It's not just, your Sean Hannity types or your Tucker Carlson. It's these politicians as well. And to Sharon's point, we do need more education in this country and in this world. Just speaking about this country in particular, if we do have an education system where we're educating our youth about the uncomfortable truth, like if we're actually teaching that to our kids, then I think we are going to foster a society where a lot of this bullshit that we see is not acceptable. Now, again, it's not going to root out those feelings of racism, because you can't like adjust what happens at home. So those people that are here and they're teaching their kids, hey, how the Bible says that black people are, less than, and I mean that's going to continue. But what like outside of your private domain, yeah, man, you can't. It's not going to be acceptable for you to like actually act on that. And I think that, I mean, that's all I can ask for. If you want to be racist in your private residence, hey, it's a shame, but do you?
It's the same. I kind of see religion in the same way. It's like, it's not what you believe. It's like, why do you have to try to control other people so that they believe what you believe?
Why?
And like, let's just say that there is a God that exists. Which one is true with all the different religions? That's what I ask. And let's just say God exists. Like, let's just like say, okay, there's a God exists. There's a God that exists. Like, how do you justify like these beliefs that you say you I guess, that came from this God. Like how can, like this God wants this. Like where is the where's the origin of these messages and the beliefs that come from this God you say exists? Okay, if you say this God exists, that's fine. But why, why does this God say I have to do this and do this and do that? You see what I'm saying? Why do I have to live by what you say this God tells me to live by? How this God tells me to live? Just, you know what I'm saying? Like that.
You know, look, again, I think, you know, separately, but, you know, still, I guess both of us have talked about religion and what we feel about religion and kind of, you know, our perspective on it. I know, you know, for me, I don't believe it's going to happen, but it's just like, you know, it's a thought in my head. All these people that really do feel that there's an actual difference between people. Like there's a difference. Like a white person is different than a black person. Like something is different other than like the pigmentation. I mean, like there's something internally, spiritually, there's something different, and white people are more than, right? It's just like I have that feeling. It's like, okay, I just like, what if that? I mean, of course it's not gonna happen. You know, I'm talking about the fantastical. But it's like, do you really, like for those people, do they really think that when it comes down to it, their God is going to like back them up on that belief? When it doesn't matter what denomination it is, what religion, I mean, it doesn't matter. I think anybody that believes in God is like, okay, you're just talking about humans. You're just talking about humans.
Yeah, because that's what, you know, you're right, because that's why.
Treat your fellow man with this and that, you know. I was talking about humans.
I was going in a different direction, especially when you're talking about like evangelicals kind of magically switching their position and kind of shelving their principles and their morals to support Donald Trump.
Right.
And providing all these excuses to do so.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like before you was mad that like, you
Obama wasn't Christian enough,
or Michelle was just showing her shoulders. You was mad about that. That
right.
proved that they were immoral.
Yeah.
But Melania come around who posed for Playboy. Now people like Pat Robertson call it art. It's like, come on now, there's something else going on there. It's like really all they're doing is projecting their beliefs and desires up to this
and
kind
making
of,
it fit.
They're just projecting it up,
fit.
and it's coming back down to them, but they're kind of skipping the first step. They're not recognizing, no, all you're doing is projecting your beliefs up to some sky daddy, and then you're saying this sky daddy is sending you messages to believe what you believe.
So it's like, okay, so
about whatever. That's why God always believes their politics and their politicians, because it's them. It's not God, it's actually them. They're just projecting who they are and their beliefs up somewhere or to somewhere, and then it's being mirrored back to them, and they're saying it's coming from a divine being when actually they're the beings it's coming from, which is actually narcissistic. In my opinion, it's narcissistic because it's all y'all. It's all you.
You know how
y'all
people say that the Constitution should be like a breathing document? It should, it should adjust. We should, because societies change, people change, what's acceptable and not acceptable, all that change. So the document should be a breathing document, right? Sounds like God can be changed on a whim,
actually,
as well.
No, it can, and like the different religions kind of prove that. Like Mormons, remember? I can't remember the date and when they changed it, but remember, like black people were supposedly not going to get into heaven no matter what. That was what they said, that the revelation that their God told them. That was the revelation that their God told them, that black people were cursed and could not get into heaven. Now, God sent another revelation reversing that. So now the church allows black people in. So I'm like, so what you're saying is the all-knowing God was wrong?
Yeah.
Or the all-knowing God thought they were right and then changed their mind. So obviously, according to them, God does change his mind. And actually, not even Mormons, not just Mormons, but Christians do that. Remember when God said, I made a mistake, and when he flooded the planet, he flooded the planet because he said he made a mistake by creating man. Yeah. I'm like, damn, I thought you were omniscient and all-knowing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
how you make a mistake?
Knew what was going to happen.
You knew
too.
shit what was going to happen.
It's not even predicting. I mean, you made everything, so you know exactly how everything's going to turn out. So it couldn't be a mistake. You knew how it was going to go.
So yeah, so
that'd be a choice.
Again, religion proves itself. I guess proves the point that God does change. But it is interesting to me if, like, whatever doctrine you believe in, whatever book you get your doctrine from, and you say, this is what God said, this is God's word from beginning to end, and this is how it should be, to me, and that's it. From this book, what you're telling me is your God is dead. Because you're saying your God doesn't speak anymore. Your God don't judge. Your God doesn't speak. Your God doesn't offer any new revelation. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of weak. You're saying your God is dead, and it's only like however big your book is. Sure. That's how big your God is.
Yeah, that can fluctuate. Yeah.
However big your book is, depending on what you believe, you're saying your God is limited to that, and that's your God's word, and it can't go beyond that. You're saying your God is dead because it can't grow or it can't move. So, as a result, you ain't gonna go nowhere. You ain't gonna move.
But. So what's written doesn't change, but how you perceive it can.
True, and there's a lot of that's why there's so many different denominations, because how it's perceived or how it's interpreted, and there are some interpretations I can get down with, based on like how that person expresses their knowledge of what they're talking about, but in most cases. Unfortunately, people don't know what the hell they're talking about, and that's the problem. Or people try to project certain things onto it, and I think that's the problem. They think they already have an understanding of the world, and they try to project the understanding or the conclusions they've already reached about or the world onto that book.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. We can talk about this forever.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a good point that that Sharon brought up. Hitting on education. To get to that point, though, like I said, we have to have a dramatic shift in leadership all across the country. Can't just be on the state level. I mean, it's got to be at the lowest levels. We need them on the boards. We need changes. And I mean, shoot, we just talked about that story in what is it, Hoschton? What was that small town in Georgia? Hoschton, Hoschton, Georgia, where they're like, hey, we don't think that's gonna fly here. There's not too many black people. We don't think the white people are gonna take too kindly to the city administrator being black. This is 2019, and you're concerned about appearances. You're concerned about a position going to a black person because your town is majority white. It's like I said, we need dramatic changes. Like the way this country is just set up, these rural areas. I mean, it's likely always going to be like that. For the foreseeable future, like there's going to be areas that are just majority white, but we still need people in those areas that don't facilitate those types of attitudes, and that's gonna be hard to accomplish, man. That's gonna be really hard to accomplish.
I'm seeing conflicting stories, but they're saying Trump tax returns got released, but only from 1985 to 1994, and it reportedly lost $1 billion. I'm not sure if these stories are true or not, because the New York Times says they don't have his actual returns. They just received them from somebody who was authorized. What did it say?
From 85 to 94.
Yeah, and then he lost like $1.17 billion. Says journalists have been elsewhere have been trying to piece together Dr. Trump's complex concealed finances. While the Times did not obtain the president's actual tax returns, it received the information contained in the return from someone who had legal access to it. The Times was able to find matching results in the IRS information on top earners, a publicly available database that each year comprises a 1/3 sampling of those taxpayers with identifying details removed. So this seems more like a triangulation of some sorts. And again, I'm trying to look at multiple sources, but they say they don't actually have the tax returns.
So they quoted a lawyer for Trump. His name is Charles Harder, who said that the information was, quote, highly inaccurate.
Something tells me, this is not, this ain't it. Something tells me this ain't it, Chief. And then who cares about, I mean, that gives you some.
I mean, it's something, but.
It tells you how much, it kind of gives you indication about how much he was in debt. But guess what? If you actually follow Trump, you already know.
Yeah, exactly.
You already know he was severely in debt and was losing money. This stuff is not like news. This
How
is
many
why
times did he declare bankruptcy?
Declare bankruptcy. This is not like new revelations. This is what makes him such a vulnerable businessman and a vulnerable leader, because he's in debt and he's desperate. So that's not new to me. Get out of here.
We didn't talk about that. How Steven Mnuchin, the Secretary of the Treasury, refused to, I guess, hand over Trump's taxes to the House committee, the Democrats, Nadler, who requested them. So they don't have a legal leg to stand on. There is no legal leg. There's no precedent. There's nothing. They have no legal footing whatsoever to deny that request, but they're doing it. No legal basis whatsoever. Whatever they're singing about it being like personal, it's an agenda, this is biased. It doesn't matter. They don't have to provide a reason. They can get the tax returns for anybody, and that includes the president. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. So it's going to be interesting. I believe Nadler, he did not say what his next steps were. But of course there's going to be a next step. He's, I guess, meeting with counsel to see what that next step is. Again, there's no legal leg to stand on if you're talking about the Trump side. So if this does result in a court battle, it seems like it would be a short one. You understand? It seems like it would be a short one, because I don't understand what the argument would be, but anyway, that's ongoing. I did see people talking about the shooting in Denver. It was at, is it a high school? Well, it's a K through 12 school.
So it's a consolidated.
Yeah.
It must be a consolidated type school.
8 students that are injured. 2 suspects in custody. I think I saw maybe a notification about this earlier, but I didn't read into it. Several of the students are in critical condition.
So no reported fatalities?
I don't believe so. Not as of yet, at least.
I just came across this story, and it's actually a couple weeks old. I just came across it on Twitter, and somebody shared a link to a story where there's a East Texas State Senator, Brian Hughes, is trying to pass a bill called the Election Security Bill. Well, it's already passed the Senate, Senate Bill 9. It goes, I don't know when it goes to the House. I can't find it. But yeah, it's called the Election Security Bill, and it takes aim at voter fraud, of course.
Not election fraud, but voter fraud.
Voter fraud.
Oh, man. It's running rampant, man.
One of the key focuses of the bill is to focus on voter fraud that can occur when people who help disabled voters try to influence how they vote. The bill would also require people who help disabled voters cast a mail-in ballot officially certify that the voter they helped is physically unable to enter a poll without risk to harm. In addition, it allows poll watchers to accompany both the voter and helper into the voting area. From what I've read, it makes individuals who are assisting disabled disabled people go and vote, have to fill out some form. Basically jump over hoops to prove that these disabled people voted how they voted and weren't influenced by you.
Do we have instances of voter fraud documented in cases of disabled people where disabled people were like, hey, that's not who I voted for? Do we have those on the record? Because there would have to be something on the record for you to do something like this, right?
Well, he noted, I guess, when he was asked questions about this bill, he noted suspected mail ballot fraud, not like suspected, not actual.
So we're talking about imagination
confirmed.
again? We're talking about imagination again, like what's possible. We're talking about that, really. Because if you don't have any evidence of something, then damn sure you're not going to make you're not going to adjust things. You're not going to make things harder when it's not a problem. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be caring about disabled people, would you? That'd be kind of evil.
Also, the bill would require someone who drives people to the polls and asks that a voting machine be brought to the vehicle for its disabled occupants sign a statement saying who they are and why the voter they brought needed assistance.
Why? Really? They're human. If they're registered to vote, that's all you need. There's no test. This is a test. This is a test. There should be no test, right?
Hughes' bill also orders election judges to not accept voter registration forms that are pre-filled out. Not pre-filled out with information, just pre-filled out with things like check boxes saying that the applicant is 18 and American. Those can't even be checked. Yeah, so basically critics of the bill says someone could be guilty of a crime by turning in one of those pre-filled out applications. Hughes contends that those applications will be made unavailable after the bill passes. Basically, he's making people jump through hoops. And the thing about it is, like the part that really concerns me is requiring someone who drives people to the polls to fill out some shit and verify that these people needed assistance. Like, because guess what?
How are you going to determine that, though?
Exactly. Like, so now, like, I can't, like, somebody driving, like, some senior citizens from the nursing home or a nursing facility or assisted living facility, or, like, what if you're just a damn bus driver? Aren't you assisting people and driving people to the polls? Like, what?
But see, how is there going to be some type of notation on the voter rolls that notes that these people are disabled? How are you how are the poll workers gonna know that?
Must be no new form. I don't know. It must be a new form. And then they also have to prove whether you didn't influence these disabled people. I'm like they're not. You're talking about mentally disabled? Like those
no, physically disabled doesn't mean mentally.
Exactly. Like you're just saying disabled. I'm like.
And even, you know what, dog, even mentally disabled, like, that's something, hold on, I don't, so this is something I have no expertise in, but does you being determined, if you're determined to be mentally disabled, do you lose your right to vote?
That's another subject we could talk about on another show about losing the right to vote because you've been, I guess, convicted of a crime, because we didn't talk about that. That was a big topic.
But what about the mental? If you're deemed mentally disabled, do you lose the right to vote? I have no information on that. I've never thought about that before. Do you know?
I don't know.
Well, that's not passing the House. It's not going to pass the House. The Senate, I guess it's possible. I mean, the Republicans do have control. You said it already passed the Senate.
It already passed the Senate.
What was the vote?
Didn't say. It may have said. I didn't.
Damn, this might said they let Trump vote, so probably the bar is very low. Yeah, I've never heard it. Sharon said I wouldn't think so because they are still citizens. Yeah, I've never heard that you would lose. The only cases where you can lose your right to vote is crime. You know, you were convicted of a crime. You're no longer a citizen. Never heard anything about disability.
Somebody on Twitter who was kind of covering this bill. If you want to go to Max Kennerly, his name is Max Kennerly's Twitter. He has a bunch of threads. He has a thread on this, and he says another thread on the bill to make it illegal to bring more than 2 non-family members to the polls in Texas unless you fill out a form listing them and affirming they are physically unable to enter the polling place without assistance. So you have to fill out a form if someone is physically unable to enter.
Nah, man. How about, if you want to talk about voter fraud, okay. But let's deal, first things are first. How about we deal with election fraud? Because that goes on in the shadows. That happens at a higher level, higher frequency than voter fraud. You're talking about people that are in power making decisions to really corrupt the process. There are many aspects of election fraud, many ways of actually getting that done. We can talk about that. We can actually try to do something about that first before we ever touch voter fraud. Voter fraud. Let me get out of here, man.
Yeah, reading part of this election, part of the section 2 of this election code, it says a person who assists at least 3 voters voting under this section at the same time by providing the voters with transportation to the polling place must complete and sign a form that 1, requires the person to affirm that the voters are physically able to enter the polling place without personal assistance or likelihood of injuring their health, and 2, contains the following information: the person's name and address, and whether the person is providing assistance to the voters solely under this section or under both this section and subchapter B. This is crazy, though.
They want to reduce the vote, man. They don't want as many people voting. Just simple as that. They just do not want many people voting because, as we saw, as objectionable as Hillary Clinton was, she still got about 3 million more votes than Trump. You could say that in modern history, she was probably one of the worst, if not the worst, Democratic candidate with all of her baggage. She still got about 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. So with all that, I think you could say that the country is more, I guess, leans more towards her type of thinking than a conservative, than somebody like Donald Trump. And I said before, you remember, I think the last 7 elections, there's only been 1 election where a Republican actually got the popular vote. 1, 2004. George W. Bush, his re-election. Only 1 time in the last 7 presidential elections. That's crazy. What's that? Oh, that was
19,
19.
Oh,
so that must be in committee then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah. Committee substitute sent the bill on the third reading. So I guess they went through a few readings.
I wonder if there's any. That looks like some Democrats voted for that. 19-12. All right. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I'm just looking through the chat, see if there's anything we need to
Super chats.
Read. Any questions or anything like that? Let me see. Sharon said, Republicans are realizing the jig is up. People are starting to wake up to their con, and they know they'll never be elected again when the people turn out to vote. There's a good chance of that. I mean, really, when you look at the numbers from the midterms, man, the Republicans got dealt many, many losses.
Oh, they're trying to prepare for 2020 because they understand that the perception of Trump has gone down. Now, it hasn't gone down with staunch, his base supporters. I saw this poll come out and his approval rating, and everybody was so surprised. How can it be so high? I was like, it's so high because his base still supports him.
Mm-hmm.
But amongst independents and amongst Democrats, it's low as shit. They see that. They know it's not enough for him to just get his base, and they can't count on him pulling those states that he won. Those with Wisconsin, Michigan, what's the other one? Ohio.
Yeah, Florida too. But that's not Midwest.
Midwest. So they can't. They know good and well they can't count on a repeat.
Yeah. True, because the Democrats are going to campaign hard in those states. They're not going to forget about those states this time. No, there's no way. Like we said, the convention is going to be in. Is it Milwaukee?
Yeah, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very.
I don't think there's a reason why they haven't it up there at all. No, there can't be.
No. Oh, there's going to be a lot of Midwest talk around that time.
You think
Oh,
so?
my God. All those speeches? Oh, there's going to be a lot of Midwest talk. You know it, man. Right? The last 7 elections, the last 7 presidential elections, the Republican won the popular vote 1 time. And yet we've had George Bush, we've had Trump. 3 elections they've won, though. Wow. All right. So we have Gaillard in the super chat donating to the stream. And actually it was twice, but no, it was actually once. I saw it. Well, hold on. That junk says 10:59 a.m. I think it was towards the end of our last stream. I think it was like towards the end of our last stream where Gaillard had, throw us a few bucks, and but we weren't able to get to it because we were already wrapping the show up. I think we already signed off or anything like that. So, but no doubt, appreciated Gaillard for consistently supporting us and doing so with some money. You know what I'm saying? With some money.
We need it.
I think that's all we got. I think that's all we got for tonight. There's a lot of polls going around.
Polls where they they're I guess the target group or the sample size is like 500.
Yes.
500 and everybody over 50.
Shows
that Biden is leading. Just shows that Biden is leading.
He's increased his lead to like 40 points now. Really? Okay. All right.
Like really?
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I'm like, okay, y'all ain't fooling nobody.
Yeah. You're not trying to do, because you weren't trying to do something in 2016 either, right? Like, and see, that's what I'm talking about with election fraud too. Like, you can include the media in election fraud.
Because it's
fraudulent
behavior. It's fraudulent behavior. It's not like out and outright fraud, like criminal fraud, but it's fraud in the context of like trying to dispense false information.
Right, no doubt.
Or misleading information. And it's only done because they're trying to influence people. And they know how people are influenced by polls. They were like, oh, dang.
It's over.
It's over. He's
we gotta get behind Biden now.
He's getting all the support, and we were told that we got to unite behind a candidate. So it looks like he's the right person to unite behind.
Haven't even had the first debate, but we have to. It's too late. Biden's already the winner. That's what we have to do. It. Sorry, Bernie, we can't do it. It's done for a purpose. They're trying to prop Biden up. His record.
Abysmal. Did you see a girl? Who's the boss? On MSNBC, who's the boss?
Nah, I didn't see it.
Whack. Basically, she admitted it's not about policy. She is caping for Biden hard. And she admitted about policy. Her and I think it's George Takai. Both of them are like the same. Like we don't need to like have any conflict amongst any of the Democrats. We just need to unite behind one. Well, how do you determine who's that one? How do you determine who's that one? You just pick it? That's bullshit, because that doesn't make any sense, especially with all these Democrats running, or at least the ones that have a viable shot. In order to unite behind one, you have to objectively determine which one's the best. You can't, you know what I'm saying?
You can't just arbitrarily choose one. No, there's a process and it's already lined up for it. So why make that determination now? Why say, oh, you're all... If policy, like, it's crazy that you're talking about, look, and a lot of these polls, like these respondents have said that policy is second, defeating Trump is first. A lot of these people are saying that no, the ultimate goal is defeating Trump, so it's not about policy. Okay, so it doesn't matter about policy, so you're going to end up with somebody that you disagree with on policy just because you want to see Trump leave office.
But those two things, like, you can have both at the same time.
You can, because there's a process. Because there's a process.
Why are people acting like there's no way both things could occur at the same time? We can't have both of these things at the same time.
You know what also is apparent?
They're not mutually exclusive.
There's some other polls too, right? And what's apparent in many of these other polls is that there are multiple Democratic candidates that will beat Trump in 2020. So if the goal is to beat Trump, then we have multiple candidates that can do so. So why not just go through the process, see who's better?
You would have to. There's no other way. You can't see who's better unless you check each candidate against the other. So how you determine who's the best? That's why it's disingenuous. That's how you know it's about a particular person. It's about Biden.
He's not going to look good on that debate stage.
Anybody, it just seems as if
unless they don't hit him.
The people who are kind of taking that position about, uniting behind a candidate, which we all know
in 2019. In 2019, before the caucuses and primaries, we have to unite right now.
Right now, it's like only people pushing that are people who are supporting a trash candidate. It just like why is that? It seems that the people who are pushing that are the ones that support a trash candidate.
Right. Like so we supported Bernie Sanders in 2016. It's very possible that we'll support him in 2020, when it comes to the primaries. Very, very possible, right? I welcome him being lined up or compared with the other candidates. I welcome that.
And you know what else kind of, Joe Biden let his weakness out of the bag the other day, and Bernie Sanders had to respond. Now, if Medicare for all really doesn't matter, if policy doesn't matter, all of the things that are being pushed by progressives during this campaign, Joe Biden tends to kind of poo-poo on. He kind of dismiss.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, millennials, he doesn't care about. He thinks millennials whine too much.
Right.
We have it easy. We whine. He called himself the most progressive candidate. Bernie Sanders had to chime in.
He did have to respond to that.
And you know what that tells me? Even he knows that he cannot run as a centrist. He has to kind of like put on this kind of costume.
Yeah.
Why would he say that? Why would he say he's the most progressive candidate?
Well, that's the same tactic that Hillary Clinton tried.
But see though, but if you think all of that stuff is, ponies and unicorns, lofty. If you really think all of that stuff is just like going too far, progressive policies, and you think that like your position as a centrist, a pragmatist, incrementalist is the best way to go, why do you need to invoke the word progressive?
You would be Howard Schultz. You would just be Howard Schultz.
Proud.
So
why can't you be proud of your centrism, Biden? He had to invoke the word progressive because he knows he's weak. He knows he's weak sauce, so he had to invoke that word. Why are you invoking it now? Because the polls is fucking you up. You know what I'm saying?
He tells on himself, man. Just I don't know how long it is. This is recent though. The video came out of him like praising Dick Cheney.
He's a nice guy.
He said something like that. I gets down with Dick Cheney or something like that. Would any progressive do they get down with Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney, the former VP, Dick Cheney. You see, look, we know all this information. It is imperative that all of these flaws actually are addressed during the debates. That's my only concern. I know that not everybody watches the debates, but the media does cover them. And I think a lot more people will, you know, they'll be privy to the information in that way, like notifications, stories, whatever. I know there will be an attempt to kind of spin things because of their preferential candidate, Joe Biden. I know that, no doubt. But you can't erase his record. You can't erase his record. You can't erase the like recent statements that he's made. Like I said, Dick Cheney, progressive, attaching himself to progressivism when his track record is nowhere near there. In the midterms, standing up for the Republican, the far right Republican in Michigan.
And he doesn't feel sorry for anything he's ever voted for, even though he's been on the wrong side each and every time. That's why his new, doesn't he have what's it, Simone Sanders? Not Simone. Is it Simone Sanders?
Yeah, Simone Sanders.
That's the campaign manager. Mm-hmm. She tried to she tweeted something out, and boy, she got ratioed like a mug, dog. Because she said something about evolving. Like not holding,
That's not evolving.
Yeah. She basically tried to cover for him and basically said, hey, it's like politicians evolve. And I'm like, that would make sense if we had something tangible or
evidence of his evolvement.
Yeah, we had something tangible to show that he's evolved, and she couldn't do that. Everybody was like, yo, show us the receipts. What are you talking about? Everybody was like, this ain't it. Nah, this is a bad take.
It just looks like you getting a check right now. That's what it looks like.
Off,
yeah. Evolving, man. Don't talk about evolving when you go from Bernie to damn Joe Biden. You can't talk about evolving. Nah, man. If it was a linear move, cool, whatever.
Man, I think right about now, man, I think they're just, most of these campaigns are scrambling to have good takes in order to bring attention to themselves. Like, what was trending the other day about Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris said something about election fraud definitely happening in Georgia. Definitely happened. It definitely happened in Georgia. And I'm like, did you say that at the time? I could be wrong. I could be calling her out and I could be wrong. I don't know. I just don't recall Kamala Harris saying that at the time.
About? Was she talking about the presidential election? Or was she talking about?
Yeah, she's talking about Stacey Abrams and Kemp.
Okay.
She was saying that voter suppression does happen in Georgia. I think she was specific to that election in general, but she named that election. I was like, did you say it back then?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I was like, why are you saying that now? I'm like,
they're really trying to put, like you said, draw attention to the campaign because it's coming that time because the debates do start late June. I think it's late June, last week in June, I believe. So it's crunch time, man. They really got to get their message out. They got to make sure that they're visible. I just hope that all of them, not just Biden, but all of them are challenged on their records, their statements, their actions, but especially Biden. I hope the other candidates do challenge him, not just go with I don't want to just see you talking about your position. No. Juxtapose it to somebody else on that damn stage.
It all depends on one, who's controlling what questions these candidates get. Because right now, the juxtaposition is already happening with both Bernie versus Joe, and then Liz versus Joe.
Yeah.
I like it. You know why? I love it. Something tells me that both Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are purposefully kind of offering their counter arguments to Biden so that Bernie Sanders can't be tagged for going after Biden without people tagging Elizabeth Warren too. I've seen that.
So they're jumping. They're jumping them.
Oh, they can't. They jumping them because Warren came out too.
Yeah, she is.
About his relationship with big banks.
Oh yes,
and I'm like, thank you. I said, thank you for doing that. And actually, she came out. I think we played that too. We played that during the 2016 cycle. Her comments about Hillary Clinton being different after she became a senator of New York.
No doubt.
And that video is being reshared now with her talking. Though she looks so young.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm glad Elizabeth Warren came out and kind of challenge Biden's words and his record. So now people can't just say, "Oh, look at Bernie attacking Biden," kind of like how they did with Hillary. I'm like, thank you, because now you know good and well you're not going to go after Warren like that.
I hope it continues with Warren. She's in the race, so there's every reason to believe that it will, that she will be fierce, that she will look authentic, that she will really, share her progressive positions, be aggressive. You just wish she would have done that in 2016.
I think a lot of people still hold that against her, and believe me, there's still like a little. There's still a little black part in my heart. Yeah, it's still right there. It's a little hard part.
She's chilling on the sideline.
It's a little hard part.
Didn't get in the game at all. Clock read 0, and then she stands up.
After she said all those things about Hillary, and actually to me, like. I would say she hit Hillary just as hard as Bernie did. Mm-hmm. Bernie didn't really hit Hillary as hard.
No. In that clip there you're talking about, where she talked about that was something that Bernie never did.
Never did.
He never did that. Not like directly. He never did that. He never went there.
That's why it just makes the argument about how Bernie Sanders destroyed Hillary Clinton's campaign bullshit. Because if you go look up Obama comments on Hillary, Obama rails on Hillary, man, you'd be like, damn, son. Yep. Like, he was hitting her like a sledgehammer.
But everybody got love for
Obama.
Hillary supporters, they got
love
for Obama.
Even though, like, he was just swinging away. So I don't get it. And, like, Obama hurt her so much that she didn't even get through the primaries.
That's true.
She didn't get through the primaries.
How much did Bernie hurt her if he didn't even win? He didn't even win.
He hurt her so much he didn't even win.
But look, Obama and Hillary though are more closely related than Bernie and Hillary. So,
but see, at least Obama had the presence of mind to like run a progressive campaign.
That's true.
But again, he had the advantage of not having a long record. Yeah. So he could run like that.
And he had the advantage of, look, I say before, Facebook was around back then. Social media was around, but not like now.
Yeah, true. Like yeah. You're right. It's a much different ball game now.
Whole different ball game now. So he did have that luxury, and nobody was really talking about, not at a really high level. Nobody was really talking about like money and politics and corruption. That definitely was not like a major aspect of the 2008 election. That was not a big aspect of it.
I would have to disagree with you, Calvin Darden, on that. I don't think the going after her server would be kind of. I don't know. I don't think that's a valuable campaign strategy. Maybe the Clinton Foundation. Maybe I'll side with you on that. I'm not completely 100% with you on that. But if I was going to take one or the other, I'll take the Clinton Foundation. But I think the server is pretty much dead. They actually brought that back up a couple years ago when Republicans had control. We talked about it on the show a couple of times. They didn't tell you about they reopened it. But yeah, they reopened it secretly. Well, they didn't reopen it secretly. They kind of closed it secretly. They reopened it and let the public know. But when they didn't find anything, they kind of like said. But yeah, I don't think that's a good campaign strategy to go after her for the server. Yeah, we both admit it was irresponsible, but there's nothing that they found that was criminal. And most of the emails were redacted and made public. When Republicans had control of the House, they couldn't even find anything. So if Republicans can't find anything, they couldn't find anything to use then.
It was sloppy, but yeah, I don't think it would have been like, it shouldn't have been anything that like led his campaign or anything like that. Even at the time where you remember at the debate, he said, like, what it was, enough of her damn emails.
Yeah, enough with her damn emails.
Yeah. Even at that time, like, we didn't even know all the details. We didn't really know about like the server and in the house and all. We didn't know any of that. So we were tired of hearing about the emails too. It was like, this is nothing, man. This is just Republicans trying to hit her on some garbage. Nah, there's more pressing issues. When we learned the details, and yeah, it was sloppy behavior. Yeah, there's something that we talked about. But on a presidential campaign, outside of maybe like one statement about it, maybe if I'm asked about it, I might say, yeah, that's a bad look, blah, blah, blah. She shouldn't have done that. She should have been, that was reckless. She shouldn't have been that, blah, blah, blah. And that would have been it. I wouldn't have said more than that. Now, one thing he didn't bring up, I don't think he ever talked about her time as a Secretary of State. I don't think he ever talked about the Clinton Foundation. And like I said many times before, he never, put that label corruption directly on her head. He just never made that. He suggested it. And of course, you knew exactly who he was talking about because she was the only one in the debates. So he kind of suggested, yes, she's a corrupt, her over there, corrupt as can be. But he never actually said, look what she did in this situation. Look at this right here. This is why you can't trust her. He just never did that.
Maryland, yes, she deleted 30,000 emails, but they actually recovered almost 2/3 of those emails. And a lot of those emails she deleted were most likely personal because she was kind of double dipping. She was combining her personal business with her Secretary of State business.
And they allowed her to do that too.
And again, they allowed her to do that. That wouldn't be obstruction of justice. That wouldn't be obstruction of justice because that wouldn't classify as obstruction of justice. Because obstruction of justice would entail her somehow doing something after the investigation started. But you can't just say deleting emails will be obstruction if you haven't prioritized what those emails are. You see what I'm saying? You haven't prioritized what those emails are, especially if you already know some of them are personal and they knew that.
Warren, look, a lot of people don't have love for Warren, and
I understand that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that. No, I'm not gonna say that she's not progressive. I won't go as far as saying that. I think on many issues she's very progressive. On some, nope. I don't. We've talked about her position on Medicare for All and how she walked that back, even though she was one of the co-sponsors of Bernie's Medicare for All legislation. We've talked about that. So yeah, on some issues it's I don't know who this. And like I said, you have to go back to 2016 and notice how she did just sit on the sidelines. And when it came to, she was so enthusiastic about Hillary Clinton, and all of that does, there's some suspicion about her, and I think it's warranted. She's definitely not the worst candidate though, and I definitely would put her towards the top, no doubt, because there are a lot of other candidates with way more baggage and just way more horrible policy positions, way more just much more troubling aspects of their past. No, I would put her towards the top, even though I wholeheartedly disagree with her on some things.
Yeah, people keep bringing up the Clinton Foundation, and I just think that's it. We're barking up the wrong tree, because if her strongest opponents couldn't find anything, then what would be the point in then kind of reopening that, that can of worms? I just don't think it's, I don't know. I don't think there's anything damaging there. Yeah, it's suspicious, but if you had Republicans who actually looked into it and they couldn't find anything, what does that tell you? Well, that doesn't mean there's nothing corrupt that's going on. There's a difference between something being corrupt and then something actually having, something being illegal and I guess being criminal and something that they can actually get her on. Those are two different things. If you want to just talk about how corrupt and how shady it is, that's cool. But as far as legality, there was nothing there. The Republicans already looked into it. They even requested, which is kind of ironic considering we're talking about the Democrats requesting Trump's taxes. They even requested and received taxes from the Clintons in regard to the Clinton Foundation. And they looked into the Clinton Foundation, and Republicans there, when they had control of the Oversight Committee, they couldn't find anything.
They could have, Bernie, anybody could say this though, in 2016. Do you recall when Bill Clinton said that going forward, they weren't going to
accept any foreign.
Yeah.
And
that's a horrible look.
That's a horrible look because on the surface it looks like, hey, that's the stand up position.
Right,
but I was like, well, why would you take that position? You are you are suggesting that foreign money coming into the foundation is influencing you as a figure and as a representative.
And
your wife
now know that it's a bad look, so I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, because it's like they obviously it's the Clinton Foundation and they do work outside of their government position. And so they promote certain initiatives and they collaborate with certain governments to promote certain initiatives. So even though they don't have a government position, they are essentially still practicing.
Yeah. So that's one thing that he could have brought up about that.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so wait a second, why would you stop taking money if it didn't influence it?
Right.
So it's the typical pay to play, it's the typical quid pro quo, but as far as like there being something that you can point to that's illegal, that they broke laws, nah, it's nothing there. I'm just assuming there's nothing there because if your opponents ain't gonna uncover it, then
Bernie definitely could have talked about the Hillary Victory Fund. Oh, he could have definitely talked about that because that was something that was presented to him as well. It was an opportunity for him as well, but of course he turned it down because that would have been totally, opposite of his whole candidacy and everything that he, wanted to get done. And I mean, he would be putting himself into a situation where he is in a corrupt process. So I mean, like I said, it wouldn't make any sense that he did that. So he could have said something about the Hillary Victory Fund, but he chose not to. We said something about it.
See, Tara Bright, here's the problem with anybody who shares this position with kind of always centering big, huge deals that countries are granted as far as like weapon sales and all this and trying to connect it to the donations to the Clinton Foundation. That's one thing, but when you're talking about approving weapon sales, that goes through that doesn't just go through one person. That wouldn't just go through Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. We went over this with the whole Uranium One conspiracy and kind of the red tape that process involves. It's like arms deal that you got to go through a lot of different subcommittees. You know what I'm saying? Like Department of Energy, you got to go through Homeland Security, you got to go through all these things. So you can mention that the Clinton Foundation had something to do with it, but if it wasn't the Clinton Foundation, it would have been somebody else. It only happened to be the Clinton Foundation because he was Secretary of State. If somebody else was there and not her, it would have been somebody else. But these international deals have to pass through a lot of hands and go through a lot of subcommittees. So you would then have to put them on the hook too.
Well, I guess he's saying that in a campaign, it might hurt.
Okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see that.
But like something like actionable, like it wouldn't just be about Hillary.
Oh no, we didn't forget that, Calvin. He loves that one. I think that's one of his favorites.
Which one?
You a little when you tell that story. You a little animated when you tell that story about landing.
That was funny.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of his favorites.
That's funny, man. She did that up. All she did, she forgot the cameras were there, so. But no, she was looking right at the camera.
Hella bullets, hella gunfight.
Did you forget what cameras did? They record stuff.
Oh Lord Jesus, it's a fire. I was like, no.
And she never, the good, the right action to take at that moment would have been like, you got me. I was trying to do too much. But she never said that. She was trying to explain it away, and it just made it look even worse.
It made it look even worse. It was like a Geraldo moment. You know how Geraldo used to over-exaggerate? Like, I'm in a war zone. And I'm like, dog, them bombs going off like 200 miles away, dog. Geraldo used to love doing that, man. That used to be so funny.
All right, so we got a couple more contributors in the super chat. That's Jordan Fay says, "Take my humble offering, my friends. Keep it up." Calvin Darden, great show. Keep it up. We appreciate you, gentlemen, helping us out there, and always, notice you in the chat section. Always notice your support, so we appreciate it. We did get a message from our caller too, or one of our callers, Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon said that she just became a patron. So she's not on social media, so we can't follow her that way. But she does have a YouTube channel. So
snap!
We'll definitely subscribe.
What is it under
to
the
same
channel? Under the same name?
It would be Sharon Formation. Yeah, that's.
Snap! God, I need some more. YouTube. I need to add some more YouTube channels and delete some others. Boy,
so yeah,
got too many subscriptions.
Yeah, let me see. I don't think we can. Yeah, there it is right there. All right. Subscribed. All right.
Yeah, I'm be interested in watching some of your stuff, yo. For real.
But we appreciate that. Like I said, if you do want to become a patron, just like Sharon has done, you can go to patreon.com/LTMB. Very easy, very simple. Any way you choose to support us definitely is appreciated. If you do so with money, like I said, that you have no doubt our love, respect, and all that, man. Our gratitude.
For real.
That's
for real, because that money could be going to something else, man.
No doubt.
Taco Tuesdays, anything, you know what I'm saying?
Happy hour.
Happy hour, true that, man.
Something.
You could be something. You could be using that for anything, man.
Anyway, all right. So we're gonna get out of here. We'll be back on Thursday. Hope you appreciated the show. Sharon and Jordan, thank you for calling in once again. Hope you call in soon. Love to hear from you guys. But yeah, that's all we got. So we'll see you on Thursday. Everybody take care. Good night. Peace out.